We gonna give. Hey, how you doing today, my brother?
Man, I'm good. Blessed Sunday to you. And of course, I'm a Sabbatarian, so I had my Sabbath yesterday. For all
Okay.
y'all going to church or not going to church, I certainly hope you didn't give that nigga preacher 10% of your income. I didn't. Keep that money, pay that bill, save that for that eviction hearing. Don't give it to none of these fat, greasy, no good, crooked preachers. Thank God for COVID. You don't have to go to church. You don't have to run out and take food off. You can just celebrate God in your own home and cut out the middleman, or should be the nigger man, who says that they are telling, leading you to God, but they don't talk about economics, justice, freedom, none of that. Oh, and God said, yeah, this is someday, and I'm gonna get your money because God said, give it to me. I don't give a damn if your children eat. I don't give a damn if you live in the streets. I don't care if you got a place to go. I don't care if you've been a hoe. I just want my 10%. God said, give it to me and put a little booty on it. And I won't tell nobody.
that's
I'm
that's how the
so
message
glad.
goes. That's for the most part. That's about sounds about right. I ain't,
It is right. Look, uh, in case you, I'm a preacher's kid. I got preachers in my family going back to Nat Turner and then some. I don't like most preachers because most of them are white boy trader coons. They're not fighting for black people's rights. They're not even preaching the damn Bible. It's all a big ego trip Ponzi scheme. I don't even like going to church, and I like gospel music. I don't like how people live after they've sung when they go home. I love gospel music. Um,
it's singing. I got the Lord on my mind with dick on your breast,
so
ma'am.
if I turn my camera around, and I can, there's so many damn Bibles in my dad's library. Let's just do this shit for a minute. For folks who think I'm not very religious, okay, Holy Bible, New Jerusalem Bible, the Bible, the Bible, the Bible. Um,
Yeah.
ABS Bible, Pictorial Bible, Martin Luther, Geneva Bible. Okay, worship. Let's do something else. Um, American Standard Bible, Seventh Day Adventist belief. Oh damn! And I got wait a minute over here Bibles. Look, I got a house full of Bibles. We probably have about 500 Bibles in my house. I believe in God, but I don't believe in bullshit. I don't believe in fake ass lying niggas that don't believe that Jesus Christ came to liberate and sanctify his people. And that means we get some land, we get reparations checks, we get justice, we don't get messed over by nobody, and we await our coming king. We don't get this. Those niggas don't teach that. That's another Bible here. There's Bibles everywhere. So, yes, I'm cussing. And every prophet in the Bible cussed out the crooked ass preachers of their generation. Just read your damn Bible if you don't believe it. I had a little Negro preacher who's a friend of mine out in LA say, you cuss so much. What example do you have for all this damn cussing? And I said, Nehemiah, the greatest revivalist in the Old Testament, and
Yeah.
Ezra. They always cuss out people. Some folks only understand getting cussed the fuck out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you can sit down and say, Thus saith the Lord, and say in the spirit of love. Niggas don't understand. That's how I beat your fucking ass. Okay. A nigga used to live in my basement, right? He stole the church van for crack. All the talk about
For
God and
crack?
love to my father said, I'll throw your black ass out in winter. And dude started crying and shit. He disappeared. He didn't steal no more vans. So for all the little religious people, please go to hell. I got saved when I was 4 years old and I've remained saved. I know a lot of niggas, they just got saved last week. I don't cuss. They smoke weed. They got a double life. They don't treat anybody right, but they don't cuss. A little lesbian church mother that cock block all the men in church because she wants the women herself. Come on, man.
Yeah, that's not the church. That's always been something that got me, especially like when I was in church. You get all these
Hmm.
people going around think they say, I don't drink, I don't cuss, I don't eat pork, but you got three side babies, motherfucker. Like people thinking that.
And you know what? He ain't taking care of the side babies. Okay. So no, I can't do that anymore. I didn't like it when I was 4 years old. Okay. I'm still mad about being dragged to church 7 days a week for a significant part of my early life. I would never do that. If I had a million churches, I might go once or twice. If God needs 7 days, he needs to find someone to do it for the other four. Okay. Let him
Mm-hmm.
tell me in judgment that I need to do it every day because I'm not doing it. So I might do Saturday and I might do Sunday and I may do something in the middle of the week and I may pray and read, but I'm every day. Look, I'm Pentecostal. Niggas in church all day long. Right? And you got a child that hasn't had infant formula, the baby's malnourished and shit. Um, you take all your food to church and your refrigerator's empty. I hate all that. I hated that stuff when I was a kid. I hate it now. I can't go along with it. That's why we have our own little fellowship. Just put a plug in called Salvation and Liberation Temple. And yes, niggas, we need to get saved from drugs and racists and coons and from our own private stuff. And then we do need to be liberated from all the people messing with us. I'm talking about the Mexican gangs, the El Salvadoran gangs, the coon gangs, the Nazis, the Klan, capitalism, communism. Negroes, black folk, we need to be liberated. And so that's what I'm trying to do. So, and I used to talk about it. I feel so good, man. COVID has been so good to me. COVID got a hold of me.
COVID.
COVID got a hold of me. Like, let me tell you something. Ever since COVID has hit, I'm now with black farmers. I'm hooking up with these black beauty and beauty supply. I'm looking at ways to create businesses. I just set up a business account for our LLC, and I have a not for profit. And I'm talking to people in Africa and other places about doing something. And I just had this Negress friend of mine tell me to apply for a job at a white college in Pennsylvania. I said, bitch, please. I don't want to work for anybody anymore. And I had to apply and say, I would like to work for you. That shit is slavery. It's like, Master, I would like to pick cotton instead of tobacco. My fingers are more right. No, 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 no. We I like we needed this reset. We needed COVID to shut shit down. If I sent you pictures and I could do it right now, my neighborhood was a hood with shooting and shit. I spent as much time on the floor as roaches for people shooting where I live.
Man, same here.
I mean that. Now they're putting up sky rises everywhere, everywhere. If I showed you pictures, it's towering over the house I'm in. And they plan to build us out of here. COVID has now people afraid to move in the cities because they don't want to get sick because they nasty. They are nasty. And the funny thing is they're going to have to put black people that they made homeless with gentrification and these buildings they put up, because if you leave a building empty, you in the property, it falls apart. They're going to have to put niggas in these places that they built up for themselves. The Bible says the wealth of the wicked is saved up for the just, and I just about want as much of mine as I can get. Somebody say amen. Okay.
Amen, motherfucker. Amen.
Yes.
Hey,
So
you know
love
what?
to
You
my
know,
brother.
here's the thing. This is why it's refreshing to hear you talk like this, because I always say I used to be in church my whole life. Anybody who know me, like I said, they know
I
my story. Been there.
I kept quitting.
I
You know
was in
what?
there all the goddamn time, and it was one of the main reason why I stopped going is because the church doesn't serve the people,
It
and
does.
what we
Let me
need
tell you
the
something.
only way. I had some people at church. I remember it was a lot of people asking me, "Dewan, why don't you come back? Why don't you come back?" And I still do speeches at churches from time to time, and I always tell them the same thing. Look, the church has all of the infrastructure that we need that can liberate us. They just don't use that time to liberate us. They use the
They
time to
don't
make two
want
or three
to.
people wealthy.
The preacher's a hustler. If you build the people up, they don't need his broke back ass. Look, if the black church were a drug, I can assure you I'd never be an addict. It's always been something I could quit. It never hooked me because
Oh, come on.
somebody just come.
There we go.
Um, the
It broke
church
out. If
never.
you right
Someone,
before you said hook,
someone,
go back to right
listen,
before you said it couldn't hook you.
I could never get hooked on a black church because I'm allergic to bullshit. And I saw bullshit from the time I was a child, right? And I'm like, if people are fucked up on Sunday and they're fucked up on every other day, why do we need to go to church 7 days a week to be as fucked up as we are if we went one day in a week? Just asking. If I saw progress, I'd say do it every day. If it's about the same, then damn, let me have some of my free time. And if God needs me to be in church 11, 12 hours, I want to ask him, did you really need 12 hours of my day? Really? You so great, you need to keep my ass sitting on a pew with splinters in my ass for you to feel worship? It's not. It has nothing to do with God. These are weak, control freak ass coon niggas who want to keep us down. And this thing hit me when I was going to church within the last couple of years, and I stopped. I says, why do I feel like I'm being socially controlled? I go to work all week, and when I do get free time, I'm under another person. I have to sit down and be submissive and obey and do what someone tells me until that weekend's over, and I go back to work and I do what someone tells me all over again. I'm being controlled. I'm not being helped. I'm not being transformed. And the music is good, but shit, Donna Summer's good. Aretha Franklin's good. Khan is good. Parliament Funkadelic is good. The Commodores are good.
And let me tell you something, Dr. Short, and you're going to get way more spirituality out of Earth and Fire than you going to, and Frankie Beverly and Mays, and you will have the shit in church anyway. So don't come to me with that shit.
What's his name? I call him Quirk Franklin. This shit's not even gospel anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, you got church niggas using auto-tune. You know,
yes.
If you really knew gospel, you know, I could just, I know I've been changed.
Yep.
Changed. I know I've been changed.
That's our culture.
In heaven done, sign my name. Now I can sing on key without damn auto-tune, without practicing. I just got out of bed, you know that. Hell, if you really got something, you know, and you don't need, right? You could put my ass out in the corner with a bucket and I could get me some money singing. What happened to these niggas in church where they can't sing? And it's even worse. They're singing white people's music. I looked all over, couldn't find nobody, but high and low, couldn't find nobody greater.
And Dr. Short, here's the thing. Here's the issue with that.
No, I don't have an issue with the song, but black people trying to sound like white people in a black church.
That's bullshit. And you're right. I'm saying here's the issue with the whole auto-tune and the whole sounding like black people. This is what we got to remember. We have to remember what black church music is. Black gospel, for those listening, is what the church was the vehicle that allowed us to maintain our sound through slavery. We have these sounds. This is our music, and the church was a vehicle that we can maintain our cultural sound through and our cultural messages through. And out of the church, when we went through that horrors of slavery, we were then able to rebirth the blues, jazz, bluegrass, country western, and everything else. The church, that's why they call it soul music. It comes out of our soul. So when the church decides to go ahead and implement styles of music that don't feed the soul, what the fuck good is it?
What the fuck? Look, the R&B from the 60s has more soul than the church music. You know, I know you want to leave me, but I refuse to let you go. That sounds more spiritual than half of the gospel I hear on Christian radio. What's that song they were singing? He saw the best in me. Who's he? You don't even say who you singing about. Is that your lover or is it God, Marvin Sapp? I mean, I'm just saying, nigga. Y'all don't even say what y'all talking about.
Look, the last thing I want to hear is some boy that went to Eddie Long's church talking about he saw the best in me. That's when if I hear a 7, I got some problems.
He put the best in me, you know, or I don't feel no ways tired. Okay. And James Cleveland singing that. So what was he doing? Snorting some ammo nitrate and poppers and shit. Nobody told me Hershey Road would be easy.
Hey, Dr. Short. The theme of today's show is black resistance to white
Yeah,
supremacy and racism. Talk to
right.
us a little bit about how the black church, when it's at its best, has served as a resistance to white supremacy, and how it's now ain't doing nothing about it. How do we go from it serving us to where it is now?
Well, we got to deal with it. There are two black churches. There are two. They're two of everything because niggas, the Bible says a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. Like coons are unstable in all their ways. They'll have an ankh on and they screw on white women, or they screw on a white man if it's a brother, or a white feminist if it's a black lady. Yeah, I said it. Now, we need to go back and understand that and this is what I don't like about all the ankh niggas, all the conscious community frauds out there, is that they're not honest. We have a lot of liars in our community. I get people hating the church and hating Christianity, being black Satanists. Okay, state the fact that you're a Satanist and you hate the Christian tradition. Just do that, but don't lie about the history that can be documented. What am I saying? 300 years ago, you had the formation of what's called the Society for the Propagation of the Gospel.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the SPG. This group was a group of white, racist English people who want to figure out how to make black people submissive to white supremacy.
Mm-hmm.
One of the leaders in the group was a man by the name of Godwin Morgan. Godwin Morgan was an Episcopalian or Anglican, so-called, I should say, a racist missionary that went all over trying to figure out how to destroy the spirituality of African people to make them submitted to white people.
Okay.
He traveled all over the world trying to figure out what to do to hold black people down. Mm-hmm. One of the things that happened with the Society for the Propagation of the Gospel was that they said, hey, look, and I'm just going to give you the origins of this fake ass black church that we've got. One of the things that happened, if you go all the way back to the Crusades, mm-hmm. when England was controlled by black kings and queens, yes, it was.
Yep.
The tradition was that during the Crusades, because they were fighting with Muslims, another group of black people, Christians were not to enslave each other. In order, it's sort of like a thing. We Christians are cool. Just fake ass white Catholic before the Protestant Revolution. We don't make people slaves. The other group of niggas enslaved people, and we know that's bullshit. There was slavery all over Western Europe. Slavery ended for white people in England in the 1770s. It's called the lineage. And the reason that white people who speak English got free mm-hmm. was a black man who came from Nigeria, taken to Virginia, moved to London, and the Somerset case that was determined in the 1770s. Mm-hmm. I think 1773, they outlawed slavery in the United Kingdom, Wales, Scotland, Ireland. And this is one of the reasons we had the American Revolution. But it was a Igbo man mm-hmm. who ran away in England, went to the highest court in England, and they outlawed slavery. And it ended slavery for white people.
Yes.
In other words, black people freed white people's asses, and they turned around and enslaved our asses. See what doing good for others doesn't always pay out. But anyway, let's do this. Prior to the Somerset case, you had slavery in England and everywhere else. It was called the lineage. And the lineage basically meant that the lord of the manor, the person that owned the land, like the big master with the plantation house, which is the American version of what they had in England, he owned the land, the people on it, and the resources under it. Mm-hmm. During the Crusades, because the biggest trade in slaves prior to the 1500s was white people. The Turks sold white people. The Arabs sold white people. Mm-hmm. White people sold white people. There were some blacks, but more so white people, until the poor sanitation, the nastiness of white people, sleeping with your pigs, having pet rats and shit in the house. And, oh, what is this? Is this peppers in the rat turd? Well, let me taste it, right? You get black, which decimated the white population. They ran out of, we had a white people shortage, like what we're having now with all them getting old and shit. It's true. Then they needed a new source of people to make wealth for them. That's
Yes.
how. But during the Crusades, they tried to stop enslaving each other to have white unity against Arabs and Muslims and Turks.
Yes.
So when they began to bring people to the Americas, and there were also people already here. I will keep saying this to people. I don't give a fuck about any Pan-Africanist that doesn't get this. My great-grandmother was a damn Indian medicine woman. I've had Indians on multiple sides of my family. I'm talking about Delawares, Piscataway, Powhatan, Seminole, Blackfeet. I'm just saying. And I'm not ashamed of Africa. I've been to 17 countries in Africa, and I'm working it out. If I can get my business, we talking about this hemp and other stuff, I will go all over Africa. I love it. But that's part of my heritage. I gotta be honest. When I look at my mother with the little Chinese eyes and my grandfather that looks like he's Buddha with with the bowl cut, that's me too. And I mean, that's my grandfather. My brother looks like my grandfather. What we do say, well, I'm 100% African. Bullshit. I'm not. And I am just saying. And by the way, Pangea, there used to not be an Africa. It was just the earth. It got broken up. So we were all over, everywhere, any fucking place. Like the Maldives Islands to whatever, to the Ainu in Japan. Black people were everywhere because the first people were black. Okay, God made Adam from the dust, which is, it's never white. I've never seen white dust. I've seen white trash. Yeah, look. So you had this tradition of not enslaving Christians from the Crusades. So when they began to enslave the Aboriginal Americans, most of whom were black, that looked like me. If my hair grew out, you'll see my hair is semi-straight. If if I let my hair grow, and all I have to do is put water on it. If I go outside, blow up, my hair will do like Don King, because it's not curly like my friends from Africa have really nice, what you call nappy hair. I never could get an afro. My hair won't grow like that.
Yeah.
Because it's not the texture of hair I've got, because I'm a hybrid Negro. I'm part European, African, and Indian. It means my hair is kind of in between. My loyalties aren't in between, but I got to be honest about what I am. Now, having said that, these people understood, in order to control the populations that they were attacking, conquering, and enslaving, and because the European, in particular the English, coming to America was all based on the Royal African Company, the Virginia Company, the London companies. These things were all capital things. People putting their money, because England was broke then, they put all their money on buying black people and Indian people to work their plantations to make their money. If you own them outright as chattel slaves, but yet the custom was you could not own a Christian as a slave, you don't want your people to be Christians because you don't have the right to own them. So for all the little Pan-Africanist asshole conscious community bitches out there who say that they put Bibles in the hands of Africans and others when they arrived here, y'all fucking liars. Y'all need to cut that shit out. Y'all dumb as fuck. You have credibility. Tell the damn truth. The truth of the matter is, when they first brought people here, they did not want people to be Christians.
Quick reference for people who think that if you think Dr. Short is bullshitting, it's funny, you read the book by Carter G. Woodson, The History of the Negro Church, and he talks about how they didn't always have the Bible in their hand. That shit came later. But go ahead.
They didn't even allow them to have Bibles. Most white people didn't always have Bibles. They were expensive. They became available in larger numbers as people could print more. But let's just be real. So these folks wanted a slave labor force. They did not want Christians that they'd have to set free. However, they had a problem. If you allow these Indians and Africans to have their own religions with their own concept of right and wrong and justice and so forth, you're creating a society with values that are inimical to yours, which means they're going to turn on your ass if their God ain't your white, blonde-eyed, blue-eyed, I said blonde-eyed, damn, it's a freak, blue-eyed, blonde-haired monster that you've unleashed on people. Then you need to undermine their belief systems and give them this little blue-eyed. Damn it, this describing shit's fucked up. Okay, let me try this again. Blue-eyed, blue-eyed, blonde-haired, racist god, sky god, little freak. This albino monster that hates our guts, that some people think is Jesus, which is bullshit. We need to get them to worship this guy and tell them that this guy said, you guys have to kiss our ass, let us rape you, and you have to pick our sugar cane and cotton and tobacco. Are you hearing me? So, because they were having slave revolts and shit, and folks just want to cut, if their little African god said stab the motherfucker with the spoon in the neck, damn, we can't deal with this guy. We need to give them our white god, same way they want to give niggas vaccinations for COVID to kill us, right? So, but when they said, hey, look, when they start talking to plantation owners, well, we want to Christianize your slaves, they said, fuck, I ain't letting my niggas go. I paid a lot of money for them. Mm-hmm. So they try to figure out, what do? We don't want to create rival African Indian societies in America. We've got to figure out a compromise where we can make these people submit to us, culturally conform to us. And at the same time, for those people who are Christian, who believe that they're supposed to be evangelical and tell people about Jesus and everybody, so nobody goes to hell, and folks don't want their slaves going to hell on their conscience, how do we please everybody? And they came up with this thing. First, the Society for the Propagation of the Gospel. You don't believe me? There's a book called Slave Religion by Albert Rabbitoe. You can get it off of Amazon. Anyway, okay. But in London in 1727, 50 years before the American Revolution, Godwin Morgan, who basically became almost the equivalent of the Pope of the Anglican Church or the Church of England, the state church for British Catholicism. That's a powerful bastard. In fact, the Queen of England presently is the head of the Anglican Church. That little wrinkled up broad that we think molests children runs a church with about 75 to 100 million people. It's also a fagged out church too. I would never be one of them. Anyway.
Yeah, she runs the Protestant church, the Protestant church, the church that the Skull and Bones.
Right. Yeah. And that church was set up because King Henry VIII had VD and he had sterilized his woman, so he needed some new pussy to have an heir. Someone who's
and what was the other reason why it was set up? Because the Catholic Church divided the world between the Portuguese and the Spanish, and these motherfuckers said, "Hold on, we want some niggas too."
Yeah, so they had no cut. Now keep moving. So Godwin Morgan came up with the fake Christianity that 99.9% of Black people are into, and that is a religion that teaches. It's something to this effect, the Compromise of 1727 by Godwin Morgan, that Christian conversion, translation, getting born again, being saved, sanctified, filled with the Holy Ghost, your name being changed, your name being written in the book of life and all that jazz. Christian conversion would have no impact on the temporal status. In other words, so what, you saved nigga, pick the cotton, let us rape you, cut the cane, kiss our ass, and when you die and go to heaven, you can have a good life. So the Christianity that was allowed for Black people said that slavery, Jim Crow, genocide, white abuse, white supremacy was good, God ordained, and Black people should go along with it. But when they die, they can go to the nigger side of heaven and maybe, one of the lesser angels, since Jesus don't really like you, will let you guys be able to make milk and honey for white people in the sky. That is the religion of most Black folks who call themselves Christians. Most of y'all are chumps, punks, you're apostates. You don't believe that God made you equal to anyone. In fact, that is blasphemy In Genesis, it said we all come from Adam and Eve, but yet niggers, in particular crooked ass, no good black preachers, act as if we're inferior to other people. Why? Because they get their 501c3 money and their tax write offs by not standing up for us. So understand that they created a religion, a Christianity without the first and second commandment.
Mm-hmm.
Because the first commandment says, love God with your whole heart, soul, and mind. And second to that, love your neighbor as yourself. If you love your neighbor as yourself, you wouldn't enslave them, you wouldn't segregate them, you wouldn't redline them, you wouldn't do all these things. So we have a fake Christianity that most black people accept, most white people accept. That's why you'll never see these white churches speak out about mass incarceration or black folks living in food deserts. No matter what happens, these racist ass, fake ass, apostate, heretical white Christians never say a goddamn thing. And they've got friends, nigger, coon ass, sellout, bitch ass, fag ass, dyke ass, black pastors and evangelists and others and apostles and so forth who never stand with their people. And every now and then you'll get a freak phenomenon of someone who understands that it's only one God, only one faith, one baptism. And by the way, Genesis 10 basically says all of world civilization in terms of the early great civilizations came from the black line. And everybody was black anyway. Noah was black. His sons were black. Everything comes from the original people, period. The Garden of Eden's in Africa. It is not in France. Or in fact, you couldn't grow shit there anyway. So look, we have this fake Christianity, but every now and then you'll get a Nat Turner or Henry Highland Garnett or Denmark Vesey or Martin Luther King or Adam Clayton Powell. You get certain people who get it, that it's our God too. We're supposed to be free. This is our earth, and we shouldn't have anybody mess over us. But that is the minority. Having said that, once they got this compromise, the people then says, oh, well, great. We want all the slaves to be Christians because they'll worship us. They'll think that, in fact, here in the Museum of the Bible, they used to have an exhibit on the slave Bible. They manufactured a fake apostate, blasphemous Bible that taught black people they were supposed to be slaves. This Bible, by the way, these are like $1 million, $2, $3, $4, $5 million just to have a copy. The white folks after slavery grabbed up all the Bibles to hide their sin against God that they're going to burn in hell for. So the little conscious community niggas are correct. There was a abusive apostate Bible that they were using. However, the miracle of the righteous black people was they saw through it.
Mm-hmm.
They understood that, one, the people in the Bible were them, which is where the spirituals and all this came from, and that God wanted them to be free.
Mm-hmm.
That is a miracle. The scriptures say the word of God will go forth and it won't return to them void. When the whiteys were teaching black folks they were supposed to be slaves, the Holy Spirit was transforming and saying, y'all need to get free. Y'all need to get this stuff up off of you. That is a miracle. When I think about all the people on independent black media, Professor Black Truth, all these folks giving all this information, black authority, and you see how weak and sorry black people are today as compared to people who had no internet, no books, no documentaries, no universities. They were hearing pure lies from white devils and getting the word of truth to fight back and get their freedom. Says that there's a such thing as the spirit and power of God that was amongst our people that we don't have right now, because we're in sad ass shape collectively. Okay, Brother Dewan, when I think about the fact that Stallion and these other people can have 1 million views, and someone like Tariq Nasheed, if he's lucky, will get a few 100,000, or Professor Black Truth will get 50. Why is it the people that are doing and saying what needs to be said have to beg for sorry ass niggas to hear them? And the ones that are killing them with LGBTQ drugs and garbage get everybody. That's the difference between those people back then wanted truth. The scriptures say he that hunger and thirst for righteousness, which includes freedom, justice, and liberty, will be filled. How does someone that can't read or write in Florida figure out how to get to Canada? And yet a nigga who's living the day with the PhD can't figure out how racism works.
Preach.
Okay. So what happened with the black church is certain people began to realize that these people are lying. These motherfuckers, why would I believe that person believes in God? They just raped my mama. They just beat me. I'm hungry. I'm poor. They got a big ass house. What kind of God they got? And so you had another black church, the real one, where people would sneak off, like steal away to Jesus. Is let's get together amongst ourselves and ask our God to intervene to make war on these devils for doing this to us. Steal away was running away or getting away from being enslaved, or let us come together in spirit and strengthen ourselves to deal with these bastards. Okay. What I hate about nigger preachers, most of them, is to teach black folks everybody are our friends. You have us read a book called the Bible. The majority of the Bible, almost all the way through, is that everybody's against a group of people called the Hebrews. Everybody hates their guts and wants to mess over them. And they have nothing but enemies. Why are niggas disarmed by crooked-ass, punk-ass preachers that teach us everybody's our friends and we need to kumbaya with the Nazi and the clans and the John Birch Society and everybody that hates our guts and the commies and the LGBTQ and the pedophiles and the feminists? That's why I don't like black preachers. Y'all are chump, fake ass niggas. In fact, I understand better as I get older. I used to feel, because I'm a preacher's kid, because we were around a lot of people that were anti-communist, and you would meet people from Eastern Europe and they would talk about the communists killing all the preachers and shit, putting their families in jail. And I used to be horrified. Because this is, man, if the communists come here, they're going to kill me. My dad's a preacher, going to shoot my mom. Now I said, think about it. As much as I don't like communism, I do understand why, when there's a social movement for change, people go after these crooked ass church people, not the people in the pews, but the leadership that has worked against justice, equality, and equity and access for the majority of the people who give their money to these dogs. Yeah, are you understanding me?
Yeah.
Now back to the black. So the black churches that were for real, or the people that believed in God, they started running away. They started having slave revolts. They started destroying crops, burning shit. In fact, there's a book, I can't find it, but the white folks down in Virginia, North Carolina, had a word for black motherfucker, which was Virginia spirit. In fact, they began to forbid black preachers even around the time of Nat Turner, because their problem was these people were getting the wrong Christianity. Mm-hmm. Christianity says, I'm not picking your shit. I'm taking a couple of days off. I'm running away. Fuck you. I'll kill the. A lot of people don't know. A lot of black folks killed white overseers. Mm-hmm. And they says, I mean, I brought this dude to work and he's killed 2 overseers. I don't want to kill him because I put my money on him. They called this a Virginia spirit, these black folks that wouldn't do what white people said.
Yeah.
And they were sending these people to Mississippi and other places as punishment to break them, because they thought that they could control them with this fake ass religion. And what happened, I'm going to tell you, Dewan, some of these people were white people who were genuine that would go around and tell black people the truth about the Bible. Mm-hmm. And about, and this isn't supposed to happen to you. This is wrong. I'm sorry. This is the truth. And this stuff spread. There was a black, like you have the independent black media, the real information was getting to certain people. A certain person said, yeah, I'm not supposed to be a slave. Well, fuck, I ain't working tomorrow. I'm going to run away. This information made black people fight. You don't have to believe me. There's a collection of books called Spiritual Narratives, which is why I go off on conscious community assholes. I told one nigga, why don't you read what the enslaved person said? They were slave. They didn't really understand what was happening to them. And then they went to a Christian meeting and God came on them. Then they didn't want to be a slave anymore. And they wouldn't obey anybody. Yeah. And God gave me the power to keep resisting until I got free.
Yeah.
A lot of people, in fact, a lot of people in our community are bastards. They're ungrateful. They hate our ancestors who did the best that they could when we're not doing the best that we can right now. These people ended up having an experience where God says, I can't screwmaster anymore. I don't care if he kills me. There's a story of a black man down in the Caribbean who became a Christian. as enslaved and refused to obey his white masters.
Mm-hmm.
To make an example of him, they told him to renounce his Christian religion. This is what the white people said, or we'll burn you. And his response is, you can only burn me once.
Mm.
They burnt him, it failed. I will give you another story that's all interconnected. Now, so out of these things, black folks, when they did have these churches for black people, they had coons then, and they often had white people spy on people within the churches to make certain that the preacher never said anything that was true about God to black people. And what these people would do was steal away and hide. They would hold a little pot and they would sing into the container so white people wouldn't hear their voices. So the early police, the patty rollers who would murder and rape and kill black people who weren't where they were supposed to be, the po-po have always been here. These people would have their secret places to meet, and they would hide and sing and share information with each other. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, yes.
Out of this, you got various secret Christian societies. Over time, as some blacks got free, they established churches. One of the things that you have to understand, down in Georgia, there's a place called Silver Bluffs where you have one of the earliest black churches.
Yes.
You got Black Baptist movement. Now, what I want to say to you is, when the American Revolution came along, a lot of black people who had become Christian joined the British Army in the thousands, in the tens of thousands, to fight against white English Americans for their freedom. These people were taken out of Georgia, out of Virginia, out of New York, out of other places, and taken to Canada, taken to England, taken to the Caribbean. Some of these Black Baptists were taken from Georgia down to Jamaica. Out of them, you get a group called the Spiritual Baptist Movement. These are blacks who didn't want white people telling them about God. Out of the Spiritual Baptists, or the Shouter Baptists as they're called, these are people who worshiped like Africans. They have their own. We're not gonna do a little, you know how white folks what's the song? Christ our Lord is risen today. Alleluia.
Yeah.
Okay, these folk ain't doing that.
Yeah.
They're doing some hardcore P-Funk Africanized worship. Okay, these Spiritual Baptists, Shouter Baptists in the Caribbean, as well as Nat Turner and other people, these were the Hellraisers, not the people. Now, they'll talk about Haiti. Haiti's an aberration where voodoo was the thing. Everywhere but Haiti, the Negroes that raised the hell were Protestants. Protestant folks who didn't go along with the bullshit from Godwin Morgan. In Jamaica, out of the Spiritual Baptists and the Black Baptists, you get a man by the name of Samuel Sharp. Samuel Sharp was a preacher in Jamaica, and he led a movement that black men shouldn't bullwhip black women to please white folks. And that's what they expected.
Yeah.
So what ended up happening was his reasoning, which is why they didn't like people reading the Bible, is the scripture that says man can only serve one master. He can't have two. He'll either do what God says or he'll do what man says. Now, if you take the scripture literally, if you follow anything other than the Most High, you go to hell. So Sam Sharp said, we're going to hell for beating our own women. I don't want to go to hell beating and exploiting black women. I'd rather die. And this thing went all around Jamaica. We're going to go to hell kissing white people's ass. And this is, damn, we slaves and we go to hell too?
Damn.
They burnt up the whole fucking island. They had to send in the army, start killing people to put this shit down. But what came out of it The British had to, at least in name, end slavery because they couldn't handle this handful of nigger Christians that just said, "Oh shit, fuck this, kill me now. I ain't
Yeah.
gonna go for you." So that's how slavery ended in the British Empire. All around, for all the little coon, outcast niggas who talk about how radical they are. The people that ended slavery in the British Empire were Bible believing folks that said, "Hell, for God I live, for God I die. So what, you have a gun? I'll get it." You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
They talk about Maroons up in the mountains who followed the African religions. Those dudes made a separate deal and agreed to keep enslaving and working with the British to make certain the other people couldn't run away. That's what the African religion shit did. Okay, is they made a separate deal, like the folks who sold our asses over here. Yeah. Real talk. Turner and all these other things, Boxley, all
Denmark,
the revolts, all these other people are Bible believing Protestants who think that God is great, not white folk.
Question, Dr. Short.
Okay, go ahead.
How did we go from that and that type of leadership to where we are right now with the TD fakes and these cats? Because I want to say something real quick. It's two-part, because I remember as a child, there's one pastor out here in LA I get a lot of respect for, especially as a teenager, and that was a man by the name of Dr. Fred Price. You probably know who he is.
Right.
The fake dome. I remember in the late 90s, he did a full series on racism within the church and how the church needs to rid itself of racism. And he talked about Kenneth Hagin and these different pastors who were hella racist. And I remember he had just built that big old faith dome off Vermont and Manchester. Huge place full of thousands of members. After he did that series on racism in the church, he started bringing in Dr. Claude Anderson, and he started bringing in people to fix the race problem from black people for us, by us. And the man lost like half of his congregation after that.
Right.
So how do we go from that to not having no leadership, and then when we did get some semblance of leadership, the niggas not wanting to hear it and running away?
Okay, well, there are multiple problems, but let me just say, for Fred Price, he cooned for a long time before he stood up.
He did.
So you had a coon church. Your son wanted to marry one of these white people's daughters, and they said, "We don't want your nigger son marrying into our white family." And Kenneth Copeland and all of them told him, "Your son better keep his black dick in his black pants."
Come on, Skype. Oh, Skype wanted to trip on. Hey, Dr. Short, hold on, it cut you off.
No, let me pause for a minute, tell this person stop calling me till my interview is over.
Okay.
Hold on 1 second, because this is annoying.
Go ahead. I'll talk until you're ready, all right? So, yeah, basically, what we setting up here is Dr. Short is getting into is that there's a pastor out here in L.A. named Dr. Fred Price, and, you know, he did have a resistance to a lot of racism in church. What Dr. Short's about to go into now, I didn't know the backstory. I'm hearing this shit for the first time, just like y'all. So when as he's telling us his backstory, I'm turning around, I don't know none of this shit. I'm learning like y'all, and that's why I have people like Dr. Short on, because I love to always know the backstory of everything that I'm dealing with. One issue that we have as a people is we see a lot of things happen on the front, but it's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes that we ourselves aren't privy to the information. So, oh shit, we just went dark. Hold on. Let me fix this shit here. Goddamn. There we go. Is that it? There we go. Cool, we fixed. Dr. Short is off. He'll call back. But yeah, that's one thing that we deal with as a people is we get, it be a lot of underhanded shit going on, and it messes up what's going on top. And then we look at the people, we look at the black people that's things went wrong on, and we don't understand that the reason why shit got messed up is because it's been undermined by these folks. Yeah, Brother Love in the chat room. I'm over here waiting to hear what he got to say too, because I saw what happened with Fred Price. Like I remember him. For those who don't remember, there was this back in the day. You had back in the day you had Channel 40, and Channel 40 was the gospel channel, and on that gospel channel, we Fred Price used to come on like every Friday, and they let the motherfucker on every week, and then when he started speaking on racism in church, they kicked him off the TV, and at the time, I didn't know why. I was like, he's speaking on racism. Shouldn't we all Christians? I was a naive teenage Christian. I was really bought into the shit. I was thinking, well, if we gonna fix the church, shouldn't we at least listen to what the man got to say? I didn't realize these motherfuckers had no interest in fixing the church. You don't know that. So yeah, we saw Fred Price do that with we saw Fred Price do that, and what ended up happening is a lot of black people. Let me see here. Let me. Okay, Dr. Short trying to call back. He's trying to call back. Let me see here. Start call. There we go. He's trying to call back. But yeah, what happened was we he he did all that exposing the racism in the church, and then the motherfucker lost half his congregation. And that pissed me off, because even though I was in church my whole life, I've always been hella militant. And I'm like, hold on, black people. He's saying some shit we need to hear, and you niggas is running off to Faithful Central. And then Faithful Central went ahead and bought the Great Western Forum after the Lakers moved out. Couldn't hold the motherfucker. And now we here. Let's talk in the chat room. What y'all talking about here? Yeah, Kev Rich. I didn't know the backstory either. I'm waiting to hear from what Dr. Short got to say about about Fred Price's son. I know, old boy, he's taking over the church, and he has a cool message, but I'm waiting, nigga. I'm over here like, okay, what the fuck going on? Let me see what's going on here. Because we might have to go directly to Restream. Let me see. Yay.
I'll be right back with you. I had to do a pit stop there. Someone called me about money.
Okay.
No. I'll be right. I'm coming right back.
All right. All right.
And so no, I'll be right with you. Now I hope what I'm saying is making.
No. You gotta. No, it's making sense. You got all of us. This Dr. Short on the phone. He's about to be right in. You got all of us on the edge of our goddamn seat. So everybody in the chat room waiting to hear what you got to say. We listening. He'll be right back on, y'all. Got you. All right. What's up, David Banner in the chat room? Jay Clinton, thank you for joining the chat room. Love it. What we got going on right here. Thank you for listening. Because it's good that for me it's good that Dr. Short is giving us this information, because the church is still around, and the way I've always seen the church is this. The church already has the infrastructure that we need. It already got the buildings. It has a network. It has the reach. It has the music. It has what we need. It's just not being used right. The church is on some bullshit as far as how it's being used. Let me see. Is that you, Dr. Short?
Yes.
Okay.
Can I get in?
There we go. I'm talking about how the church be on some bullshit, how it ain't bad. It ain't all bad, but it ain't all good either. We hear you, but we don't see you.
If I give you a pie and it's...
Can you, is your camera on?
It's giving me some difficulty. You want me to call you right back?
Yeah, call me right back.
Okay, I'll do that.
Because it's doing that with the sound thing. All right, cool. Cool. That had And this, but look, this was what be happening too. Like now that we lost that connection, he'll come back. But usually, y'all know how YouTube is. When y'all watch our other channels, Brother Rich, Tariq, Jay, when that real shit get going, sometimes the communication get to tripping. Happens all the time when Judge Joe Brown's on the phone with Brother Ron, and that real shit get going. It's just like, hey, we got to stop these niggas from communicating. That's the thing about it with us black people. Like, one of our biggest problems has been our lines of communication throughout slavery and post-slavery. One of our biggest issues has been our lines of communication constantly being disrupted. Constantly being disrupted. And when you can't communicate, you can't strategize, you can't do anything, you can't fix nothing without proper communication. And the blessing for us in the internet has been, we as a people, we now get to talk to each other again because of the internet. And we hadn't been able to talk to each other for a long time. And a lot of us have been feeling these ways. A lot of us that have the thoughts of a Dr. Short, those thoughts have been suppressed. They don't allow constructive black thought on TV. They don't do that. Like Dr. Short is somebody who used to get the call from MSNBC. Dr. Short is somebody who used to get the call from CNN. But they stopped calling Dr. Short because Dr. Short would talk the way he's talking right now, minus the curse words. But he'd tell the truth. So when you get a black person that's really liberated, that knows what's going on, that knows what time it is, they don't want those voices being put out there. They don't want us, because when black people, we are smart people, man. Like, we smart as hell. We just misguided, and we misguided on purpose. I always say it's better to have no information than to have misinformation. Because misinformation, you think you know something when you got misinformation. When you have no information, you know you don't know shit, and you then start the journey to find out. Here we go. We got Dr. Short back up in here.
Yes,
there
sir.
we go. You were talking about, because you got us in the chat room on the Edge RC. You're talking about Fred Price and his son.
Yeah, look, Fred Price's son is probably a self-hated Negro, and he's been set down. And it's either with the man or woman. There's some kind of sex scandal in that church that got his son's ass removed. This is the same son that Fred Price had to go to bat because his son wanted to be with the white woman, and those people told him, if you want your black ass on television, you better tell your son no white pussy for him. And Fred Price was saying, but it's my son. And y'all love me. I mean, my son, he's black, but he's my son. This sellout mindset of certain black people I can't stand. I wish the cops only shot, beat, and brutalized a certain type of black person that think they're better than the rest of us. I wouldn't care then. Because, see, you dealing with me. You're beginning to know me, Dwan. I think you know that there's something I can do for you as a brother or sister. If I could do it for free, I'd do it. If it costs me something, I tell you, hey, look, you got to pay me, but I'll do it for you. If I can help another person, I will.
100.
Okay, that's me. And by the way, if I don't get anything out of it, that doesn't bug me. I want everyone that we can possibly help, everyone that could be free or maximize. If nothing else, pray for them or wish them well. That's how I feel about us. Whether I get rich, like I think I told you, we had some meetings with Trump people. Whenever I've done that, I've never asked for money for myself. I've always talked about black people that are poor, that have been screwed over by the system. When I was on the White House call last night, I pitched a bitch about lead poison blacks, about black folks facing foreclosure, about black folks that don't have access to food. It was not, Randy needs some money, I'm broke, where's my check? Are you understanding me? Whenever I've gotten in front of people, I've never looked to get just for me, because I'm just a small grain on a grain of sand on the beach called black people. And we all have to have, or as many of us as possible. You'll find there's a type of black person that's a predator. Sometimes they're preachers and they only want for themselves. Damn the rest of us. That's the opposite. Those are my enemies. They're even more dangerous than the Klan or the Nazis. Okay. I'll give you an example. I used to, because my parents worked in drug rehab and I saw people destroyed by drugs, I had a very harsh attitude towards drugs. Lock up people, jail them, kill them. Pimps, pushers, all of them. That's how I felt, because I saw the destruction in the hood. As I grew older and understood this is systemic, it's not the individuals, they're acting on us, not excusing the actions of individuals that do this, but there's a system at play. As I became wise, I became more compassionate, and I became an advocate against mass incarceration 22 years ago. Once I understood, right? And it was bigger than me. And I don't like weed, but I'd rather people smoke weed and not go to jail and be destroyed or gang raped or whatever. Whether I smoke or not, I don't want people to go to jail for it. I don't care what my religious ass family or other people feel about weed smoking. If it's not hurting anyone, if it's not going to bring our community down, I don't want them terrorizing and bothering us, even though I myself don't smoke, don't want to smoke, never have smoked. You get me? A lot of black folks, everything is them. Me, 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 I. And what I always say to folks is there are two tribes of black people, we niggas and I niggas, and we're at war. I'm a we nigga. I think about more than me. When I get this hookup with this dude growing hemp, I called you. This sister just called me, told me she knew all these people in hair care. I'm trying to think of how we get your ass some sponsorship, Dewan.
Mm-hmm.
You get,
Yeah.
I'm just,
Yeah.
okay, that's what the interrupted call was about. If I can get it for you, I do it, right?
That's very true.
Okay, you understand me? Because it's bigger than me. Frederick Douglass, Harriet Tubman, it was about us, not about them. Fred Price was all about himself and his son. And when the white people busted his ass, and then even though his son backed up off the white pussy, they kicked him off of their stations anyway. That's when he started talking about racism, because they didn't. But he built a church full of coons that denied racism. Jesus Christ is a millionaire. If you don't have any money, it's because you haven't served God right. You're teaching a prosperity gospel that's an apostasy. Your fake ass movement is dying just like your ministry is, because it wasn't on the foundation of Jesus Christ as a savior and a liberator that wants you to take care of the poor and the orphan. And I didn't say you couldn't get rich. I'm not against money. I'm not against us being rich, but not rich at the expense of our collective.
That's it.
That's what slavery did to us. That's what Jim Crow did to us. That's what apartheid did to us, with the cooperation of a particular percentage of our people who've always facilitated us being screwed over, whether they're called the boule, house niggas, or whatever, are traitors. So Fred Price gets rejected. That's when he gets black. When they say, fuck you, nigga. To me, where was he when Rodney King got beat?
He wasn't saying shit.
Where was he when Gates, the chief of police for LA, terrorizing black folks since the 60s?
Quiet.
Where were you? Where the hell were you when they killed the Panthers? Where were you? Where have you been? Fake ass nigga preacher. You show up after your family gets rejected. Damn you, damn your family, and damn your defrocked son. I'm sick of this stuff.
And that one tells me, go ahead.
Who does he replace his crooked ass son with? A nigga from out here who just happens, whose mother died within the last 4 years. I was at the funeral. What kind of nigga has a funeral home? He owns a funeral home, has a funeral for his mother. You're rich. and you're collecting an offering at your mother's funeral. The same mother you didn't even come around to visit half the time. There's a
Man.
picture. I'm talking about the nigga. I'm saying something that's so. The church is called Spirit of Faith. His name is Freeman.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The Spirit of Freedom Church, whatever, Spirit of Faith, I'm sorry. Do you know that church is in Prince George's County? Supposedly the richest black county in the country.
Mm-hmm.
And all the black people out there are losing their homes. The cops kill people. Do you ever hear Freeman say anything about it? Hell to the no. He's got a jet and he travels. And so when Fred Price's son gets stepped down, you put this crooked ass preacher from out here who doesn't speak up or say anything in charge of a church in another troubled black community. Fuck Fred Price. Tell him I said it. Fake ass nigga. You haven't stood up. There needs to be more people that believe in God and say, you guys are full of shit. You're liars. You don't care about justice for everybody. You just want it for your family. That's not good enough for God, and it definitely ain't good enough for me.
Real talk. Let me tell people real quick, for people listening real quick, who have, if you have any questions in your mind over Dr. Randy Short's genuineness when he says I am a we person, not a me person, I was on the phone with Dr. Short, and at the time I had only known him maybe about a month, and I was telling him at the time about another show that I'm doing called Incense and Ashtrays, where I'm interviewing musicians and people and getting our real story out when it comes to music. Do you know, after only knowing this man, Dr. Short, for about a month, he called blues legend Bobby Rush for me. And that became my first interview for a show that's going to end up being pretty big once I start releasing it. So when Dr. Short says that he's a we person, if you look up Bobby Rush, he's been around since the 1950s, Grammy winning, was in the most recent movie with Eddie Murphy. He called up Paul Reiser from Motown. He called up so many Motown legends off of someone he barely knew, but we had an instant connection because he saw the bigger vision. And he didn't say, okay, Dwan, I need this, I need that. He saw what can happen and how this show is centered around telling our story from our perspective, from our legends. The first thing he did was call every legend that he knew. So when he says that he's a we person, I'm telling you right now, we can show and prove that. This is documented. That's who this man is in his character. So when y'all hear the cussing, when y'all hear the talking, this is passion because this is a person that truly believes in what he's saying. This ain't a bunch of bullshit ass words. This is someone who wants to fix the problems that we're having here in Black America. And that's what we hear what this show is all about. This show is all about solutions. And Dr. Short is here for that. You're going to see him in a lot of big shit coming up too. But yeah, that's all I wanted to say, that little part about your character and who you are. Go ahead and say what you have to say now.
It's real simple, and I'll emphasize this. By the way, one of my partners works with Parliament Funkadelic. So you want George Clinton?
Yes, that's my druthers.
If I can get it, it's yours. And I would just do that. No charge.
Anybody who knows me, my first online name was Dewan Dr. Funkenstein Brown. Like when it comes to
it's I will do what I can to get that. And that's not to show off. I forgot to mention that to you. And I don't know him, but my partner does. I'm not caught, but I like what you're doing. I like Tariq. And it's not just you. It's a range of people that are doing Black media. If I find something, even Judge Joe Brown, I just send it. It's not enough if I know. Okay, that's my problem, Fred Price. It's not enough if it's just your son. It's everybody's son and daughter has to have justice and fairness. So yes, you come out with racism and you talk all that stuff. And he did it then. Did he stay with it?
No.
Okay. And the reason he did was that there wasn't money in it. The people, you built up a church full of coons that just wanted to get rich. Then your feelings got hurt. And then you got militant. Like a lot of niggas don't believe in racism until they get a son, daughter, or cousin, someone beaten or shot or killed by the police. Then they're talking about racism. For the most part, police have been very nice to me. I've never been beaten. I've had some point a gun at me, but for the most part. But to me, there are people who I know that have been killed. And so the fact that it happens at all to anybody that's connected to me, I'm angry. My father was a police chaplain. Okay. I got cops and family, but that I don't like I don't like mass incarcerated. I've never been locked up. I hate it. The fact that it happens to us, it bothers me. I wish we thought like this.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. I may not be hungry, but I assure you, my fellowship and other people, we're trying to figure out a way to get food for people that are hungry.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be me hurting for me to want to solve the problem.
Yes.
Okay. I met a sister yesterday at the bank. She does financial literacy. We got her card. We're going to have some sort of symposium. Maybe she'll come on your show and talk to people about money. Even if I'm okay, I'm not happy. Like Dr. King says, if one of us isn't free, we all aren't free. It's not enough if I were a multimillionaire. I could say to you right now at this age of 55, when I see someone homeless or I see someone broke, that it troubles me. Even if I can't help, I don't like to see it. Right?
Yes. Yeah, I don't feel good.
I wish I could fix it. Except if it's a belligerent person, like, I just got to ask. Excuse me, Mr. Brown, I just got to ask. I have to ask. God bless you. I have to ask. And says, and I have to tell you, no, I have to tell you, go to hell. I have to tell you, get out my pocket. Okay, if it's a belligerent person begging, that shit'll get me I would be a little street nigga right back. I think I told you about the niggas that were begging, and they were begging at my favorite restaurant, and they were harassing people. I got so mad, I went out there and started begging to compete with the beggars and shit. I'll get more money than you. He asked for a quarter, I asked for 20. Person was ready to give me $20. Yeah, I says, no, you fake ass nigga. Shit, I can beg too. And I'm more educated than you. They'll give it to me. Those niggas stopped coming around there because we went and begged, ran them out. Okay. Now, shit, I'm street too, a little bit. Anyway, back to Fred Price. The problem I have with Fred Price, I told you. Now, there's another issue. Everybody doesn't want to be saved. And if Fred Price had been smart, when he decided to be black and stand up, that should have been his time to say, hey, look, I've got this huge complex in Crenshaw. Let me take my church out as a collateral and buy up all the fucked up parts of LA and create housing, right? And put these niggas in a village, right? Mm-hmm. And then make their asses come to my church so I can teach them. That's your requirement to get the low income housing. He'd have a mega church right now full. But he thought, hey, I'm such a great man of God with my Bible, and I walk around with my damn Grady from the Sanford and Son afro and shit. Like, that's impressive.
And NASCAR mustache.
Right. He should have done more economic stuff where he put his money on the table. Okay. Claude Anderson and them, they're saying a lot of stuff, but why didn't Fred Price say, hey, you know what I'm going to do? We're going to create a bank. I'm going to get all the people in the church that have been giving me money. We're going to create a $250,000 bank. We're going to create loan funds. We're going to bring in people and really do something. Did he do that? No. What Fred Price was doing was shaking his fist at the white people that rejected him instead of saying, let me lift up my own people. And I can say to you right now, there are a whole lot of folks I know out here that are involved in the community that get offered to sell out the majority of black people if they themselves individually prosper. I'm one of them. I always said, no, I'd rather be broke with dignity than be a traitor to my own people. So Fred Price, you need to repent. Your son needs to repent. Whatever he did to his wife, okay, whatever happened there. And you need to repent for having Michael Freeman, a big time Uncle Tom, mammonized sellout nigga from the DC area who used to be in the streets. And because his father was a preacher, he got a church. And they keep the people stupid and titillated instead of educating them. He got 3 mega churches. You could really be a power for change where black folks are being foreclosed on and abused. Like the sister I'm trying to help, I got to write her a proposal. I'll send you a copy. A sister by the name of Carmen Jones was thrown in jail for trying to keep black people's homes from being stolen. She was framed by the entire political system in Maryland, in particular in Prince George's County. Where was Mike Freeman? That's where his churches are. Where are these mega church nigga preachers that here in the DC area? You've got a sister that's fighting for black families who go to your church and give your ass 10% of their income, and you let them throw her in jail like she's a common criminal. She's on the board of the NAACP doing all this great stuff. And then all of a sudden, y'all turn on them. This is how they are. This is how the boule, elite, Greek letter, coon-ass nigger preachers and others are. The righteous people who put their all on the altar to help their people are by themselves. The white system screws them. The rank and file black folks don't know their ass from a hole in the ground, so they can't tell that you gave up everything to save people's homes. It wasn't your home. You were fighting to save other people's homes. A lot of black folks, by the way, this is why you need to be careful in who you help, Brother Dewan. A lot of black folks are ungrateful bastards. You sacrifice and you give for people when you could have either gotten rich or looked the other way and not had a problem. And you'll do something for someone and not understand it. When you go up against a bank or someone that makes their money stealing from the poor, that you bring down the whole white power structure down on one person, then that person gets smashed. Like Dr. King, they only shot him. Had they really been about something, they would have shot everybody's ass on the balcony. They wanted to get rid of the one person that wasn't for sale. Look at Andrew Young and those other niggas. They let them live because they were full of shit.
Andrew Young's so full of shit.
He could be a methane gas plant, man. He could power all the cars on the California highway. All right. Look, so that's a problem. When Fred Price and these people try to lift up everybody. If I tomorrow had the means to gather maybe a good 100, not even 100, maybe 50 black folk, I wouldn't necessarily need them to be bougie, elite type black folks. I'll get me some broke ass niggas who want to do something. You know why? Marcus Garvey, Elijah Muhammad, Father Divine, these movements don't even have to be righteous. Every single solitary movement that's made any kind of noise has been made off of ordinary black people who get the vision that will come up behind someone. The elitist niggas have always been against mass movements because mass movements would replace their irrelevant sellout asses.
Yep.
Now, I want to go back to religion for a second. So I was talking about the black church. So by the 1820s and 30s, you began to get an independent movement. You had the AME Church, the AME Zion Church. You had different black folks who saw their role. And I call it, there's a term, I call it Black Christian nationalism. It's also called salvation. I'm forgetting the term, but it's based on the passage that princes shall come out of Ethiopia and Africa, shall stretch forth its arms unto God. It's a prophecy that black folk would hook up with God and get free. It's one of the foundational passages of the liberational black church, where people like Henry Highland Garnett was telling black folks, get guns, be prepared to blow off, and put some caps in people that bother them. The Underground Railroad, all these things were being driven by fundamentalistic black nationalist Christians. Okay, for God I live, for God I die. I'll shoot your ass over my freedom.
Yeah, right.
Okay, all this stuff worked. These people, even if you look at the Civil War soldiers, if you really get into glory, these niggas are fundamentalistic, Bible-believing niggas that fought white people with guns.
Yeah.
If you read them, they said these people all in the Bibles, God made them fight and try to kill these people in the Confederacy to free their people. It was a struggle between the devil, which is a white enslavement system, and God, black freedom. True black Christians believe in freedom and liberation. Fake ass black Christians believe in a check and kissing white ass. You're either one or the other. There's no in between. And so all of them, Frederick Douglass, you'll start finding all these people, they're consistent, they're Christian nationalists. He who the Son sets free is free indeed, meaning
Yes.
there's no power greater than I, there's no race of people, nothing, no class, it's me and God above me, that's it. There is no racial hierarchy. A racial hierarchy is satanic. Everything that's satanic is it says the tree that doesn't produce fruit, those branches will be thrown in the fire. AKA, when you're doing something wicked, your system will go to hell. So will you, so will your nation. The old black abolitionists used to tell white folks, and like Fred Price, like me, they would tell them, you're going to go to hell for being a racist. You're going to go to hell for holding black people as slaves. God hates you. God doesn't like you. You're dirty. You're nasty. You're wicked. You're hellish. The black church doesn't preach to the white church. These niggas want to sit up in the pulpit with the Klansmen and Nazis that hate their guts. The Bible says, be ye not unequally yoked. If you believe in a God of freedom, what are you doing running with someone that believes in a God of slavery and apartheid and discrimination? Fake ass niggas. They've never believed in God. The black people need a reformation in this country, a spiritual reformation that says we have the right to be free. We have the right to fight to the death to get it. We got our share of what's here until we go somewhere else. And we apologize to no one for it. You don't hear that from people in church. You don't. I mean, well, we need the minorities. We need to be aligned with the gays, and it's everything but God is enough, right? It says nothing's too great for God. Do you know most black people don't believe that the God our ancestors believed in was sufficient to deal with these peckerwoods and races that bother us now? I believe right now God's using COVID. They made this thing to murder us, and now they found that COVID has mutated. And now it prefers to kill people who have Neanderthal DNA, which isn't us. Notice how they have to close everything. Remember, they wanted to open the country back up when they thought it was just kill black people. Now it's killing white kids and white babies. Now all of a sudden they don't know what to do with their own. They made this thing to kill us with President Obama's support. That fake punk ass bisexual traitor, no good biracial asshole nigga. All of y'all think he's Jesus. Obama and them gave money for them to make this stuff. Now it's killing everybody, not just black folks with a weight problem or heart problem or diabetes. This shit has taken a life of its own, just like the plagues and the book of Exodus. Initially, the plagues killed Hebrew and Egyptian alike. And then God bumped it up and started jacking up just the people that were holding folks down. And look at that. I mean, this research is out there. They're not putting that out in the news because people who've been claiming to be a master race, well, COVID don't think so. COVID put Trump's ass in the hospital. COVID put his wife's ass in the hospital. COVID's putting a whole lot of people that think that they're better than other people based on their lack of melanin in the damn hospital and killing some of their asses pretty fast, too, and killing their kids. And it shut down all the institutions and everything. And you know what? They don't even know what to do with it. They made it for us. And the scriptures say, you dig a ditch for someone, you fall into it. They made a ditch to hurt us, to punish us, to eugenics us. And then they start falling into it. That's and right. They're very concerned because demographically, let me tell you what's going to happen. They haven't even been able to do the census and shit because of COVID. If this stuff keeps going, let me share something with you. If COVID goes another year or another 6 months, you know what they're going to find? It was already true before that the white population wasn't growing in 25 states in this country. With COVID, it's not going to be growing in any states in this country.
All 50.
All 50, the number's going to be dropping. And by the way, Negroes who had nothing to do but stay at home and, and exercise, they're going to make more babies. I see all these pregnant people and shit. Sometimes you feel like a nut. Well, you feel like it all the time. You have nothing else to do. I mean, we're talking about some almond joy families. Niggas going to be feeling like nut all day. We're going to have a population boom. I love it because you know what? They're niggas starting gardens and shit. I think niggas are going to move back to the country so they can feed all these babies since they don't know where their income's going to come from. Wonderful. Take your ass back down south. I hope they kick all the black people out of New York, kick them out of these cities so you can move down to South Carolina where we'll overrun people with numbers. I know that's the worst.
And that's happening right now in South Carolina and different states. I'm glad you brought that up. Talk about Cause we've done this before. Talk about we talking about black people, how we've always resisted racism. Talk about the
Right.
Great Dismal Swamp and
Okay.
how we got away from that, and how we used to use that to get away and then whoop ass when people came.
Okay. No, look, I would say to you, my family lived in the Great Dismal Swamp. And there are other families that live in Virginia, North Carolina, that are the descendants of the people who had the largest Maroon Colony north of the Everglades. I had family in the Everglades too. A lot of black folks are descendants of people who would not be enslaved. Okay. They're finding now through research that there was a huge colony of black people that lived in an area, a swamp that was up to anywhere from 250,000, 100,000 to 250,000 acres of land was a swamp. And black folks lived in it alongside, well, black Indians, blacks all got there because they didn't want to be under white people. The same way the Seminoles, which is basically a group of Indians, Creeks, and other people that moved into South Georgia and Florida so they didn't have to be under white people. In the Dismal Swamp, the black people lived there with the alligators and everything else, and the white people were afraid to go in there because the folks would kill them. You could get in, but you wouldn't come out. It was like a roach motel if you were a cracker. On top of that, when the people were short on food, they'd come out, kill white people, take the shit they wanted, and come back in. The white folk were afraid to go in. It's sort of like how Compton used to be until the Mexicans took over black people, right? The police go at nighttime because they get lit up. Even when Nat Turner was trying to escape, he was trying to get into the swamp. The reason United States Marines were sent out was to keep Nat Turner from getting into the Dismal Swamp because they were afraid he'd bring these niggas out who didn't care about nobody. They'd bring them out, then they'd really have some shit go on. So they got Nat Turner's ass. They locked the whole country down to get one and keep him out of one area. The U.S. Marines, as bad as they're supposed to be, one place they never did try to go into, they never went to the Dismal Swamp because they were afraid they weren't going to get out. The same way the Marines went into the Everglades and they got their asses beat by the Seminoles down there. It bankrupted the country. The black people that were fighting these wars against the U.S. government were breaking the back of this country economically. And they didn't need this stuff. So how did I learn about this? One thing I'll tell you, a whole lot of people are like me. A lot of what happened because of how racist and unfair this country is, your grandparents and great aunts and uncles never told you anything about anything. Everything's a secret because these were secret societies. They could not, you didn't know. I had family involved in the Underground Railroad. The way that they handled it is that you don't tell children anything. That way, if they got caught or captured, they couldn't tell you where anybody was because they didn't know anything. You don't tell people names. You give their nicknames. So someone come looking, you can't find them because the nickname isn't the name, isn't their slave name, right? So let's say your name would be Bunny instead of Brown. So, oh yeah, Bunny. They look for Bunny, can't find no damn Bunny. That's the only name you know. Haven't you met people you never knew their names?
Yeah, I never understood. Yeah, that's a definitely. I never really understood that cultural connection. That makes 100,000% true.
It's for people to not even be able to. It's on a need to know basis of who's what. Go to someone's house and ask them what their proper name is. Who the fuck are you? That's the first. What? What do you need to know my name for? They act like a name is like asking their dick size.
You're right about that. You have an uncle that you've been calling JT your whole life. Come to find out, you don't realize until you get to the funeral that his name was Bobby Earl.
Yeah, and nobody told you. And when you ask folks, they get angry. So you learn not to ask questions.
Yeah.
I came up in a family, if you ask questions, you got slapped and beaten. So you don't ask about, we didn't know anything. Just don't ask. Don't get beat.
Yeah.
And all of this is to cover up for the shit that my grandfather and them were involved in. I only learned after my grandfather died that we had been lied to about practically everything or beat when we asked certain questions. And my cousin, who's still living, had to explain to me what was going on, why there was so much confusion, why there are no names. I don't know anyone's names. I can't figure out where people are from. I'm trying to do genealogy and I'm pissing my grandfather off because I'm digging up stuff that they don't want anybody to understand. See, a lot of people that are younger, like the little millennial assholes watching this, they don't recall what I remember. There's a case down in Alabama in a town called Scottsboro where these two white whores lied on a bunch of black men and said they got raped. And one of the black men escaped to Detroit. What a lot of people don't know or they didn't live then. The states in America have extradition laws. So if you escaped a chain gang in Mississippi, they had a law to bring your ass back and put you back on the chain gang if people knew where you went. So people would go to cities of Chicago, change their name, make everything disappear because these folks would come looking for you decades later just to prove a point that white folk are in charge. So one of the Scottsboro boys got caught in the 70s. This shit happened in the 30s. They caught him after all those years. And they want to take and put him back in jail for something that they knew he didn't do. Are you understanding me?
Yeah.
Everybody knew that the white whores lied. The sperm was from white men, but they still. So when black folks would move to these cities, they would change their names. You don't talk about nothing. So you don't even know where your family is because if you knew, they may come. And they used to take hostages in black families, take a child, take a woman and make a person come back. Or we'll grab your family to make the bad nigga come back so we can put him in jail. So if nobody knows anything, because we're at war, brother, it's a war.
Yeah.
So you don't tell anybody anything. So I never heard from my grandfather. My grandfather had to be dead before I heard all this. And I'm thinking, damn, I've been trying to get this for 20 years. Right?
Yeah.
I've been trying, begging, going stuff, and my grandfather would lie, and you couldn't find anything.
Yeah.
That's how the old black people, unlike us that put their penises and vaginas and assholes up on Instagram and Facebook, the old black folk could keep their damn mouths shut. That's how they fought white supremacy, is that the white folk couldn't find out. It's a reason that they can't infiltrate the Asian and African gangs, is these people can keep their mouths shut. You know, niggas, man, they come on TV.
Glad TV. Niggas
hey, Mr. White supremacists, here's some scissors. I'm going to stab some of y'all with, and I'm going to kill y'all, and I got these guns. And I'm like, y'all retards. Y'all millennial Black Lives Matter retards. You don't tell someone with guided missiles and bioweapons that you've got a gun. Let them find out when they kick in your door like they did with Brianna. They didn't know a gun was up in that bitch.
They didn't know because he wasn't supposed to be there. Yep.
That's what freaked their ass out and said, I could get shot too. These people don't want warfare, they want genocide. I want to just come in, you got no guns, and I kill you. Now, back to the Dismal Swamp. The black people who were running north would go to the Dismal Swamp, hide. The dogs, and you're not going to take no slave raiding party up in there because they'll kill the dogs. They'll kill you. They'll kill everybody. So once you got in there, it was like a no-go zone, right? And when the path got cool, there were footpaths on the west side of the swamp.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, near Warfield, Virginia. I have family there too. Mm-hmm. And those footpaths go up into West Virginia and into Pennsylvania and into Ohio. All right. So the Dismal Swamp was a place for the Underground Railroad as well as black revolts. And there's stories of black people coming out, stealing shit, burning people's houses and shit. And that's not the kind of story. They want people to think everything was under control during slavery. It's not true. You needed patty rollers and armed white folks to keep the black people who didn't want to be in check under control. You had militias to control black people who weren't going to be slaves, the same way you got cops. Now, so I know that towards the end of the Civil War, a lot of blacks came out of the Dismal Swamp and moved into the surrounding towns. Some of them formed militias that used to wear gray robes
Mm-hmm.
for the Ku Klux Klan, and they would kill white Confederate soldiers that wouldn't surrender. They were killing them.
Oh,
In
wow.
fact, General Grant armed these black folks because they were so good at killing the white people that wouldn't surrender. They didn't even need to send soldiers there; just give the niggas guns and they'll shoot everybody. And and they bury their asses, and they wouldn't have to give an account for atrocities and all this and this. So these people also helped build the Corduroy Road for the transportation for the siege of Richmond and Petersburg and other stuff. And these black folks didn't give a damn.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're just beginning in the last few years. By the way, one of the people that's looking at is a white scholar at the University, American University here in D.C. I reached out to him and said, hey, look, dude, my family's from the swamps. He never called me back. They're interested, but they don't really want to know who the hell we are.
Yeah.
And by the way, it's all over that they're black people descendant of these groups. And so what you'll understand if you go back and you do your history, the majority of the black slave revolts in this country took place on the North Carolina-Virginia border, which is all close to the Dismal Swamp. So it was like this thing incubated of niggas acting out. So what they did was they've drained the swamp over the years. It's gotten smaller, but they came out of the swamp at the end of the Civil War. So for my family, my ancestor who's born about maybe 1800 or 1790, he wasn't a slave.
Yeah.
And these people weren't slaves. And so the slaves, if I had them on my father's side, it was prior, around the time of the American Revolution or before. On two sides of my family, people were free, either just after the American Revolution or just before. A lot of us who raise hell come from people who wouldn't be slaves when slavery was the law of the land. It's sad that a lot of us won't be free when supposedly slavery isn't the law of the land. That's a sorry ass nigga. That's most of us out here. So I ran across some documents when I was in the National Archives. It was quite fascinating to look up my relatives and what they called themselves 100 years ago. It was amazing when you asked them what they were, what they put on their identification was African. Not Negro, not mulatto, not musty, which is Black Indian mix, but African. And that was shocking to me. Damn. This is when they fought in World War I, African, not one or two. So, but some of our people, a lot more of us were resisting than what they explained. Now, I want to say something else to you. The Dismal Swamp is one place. There are also these communities where white people did not go, in the Mississippi Delta and other places, because the black people were there and they were willing to die. Well, I know you got guns. I know you hate me. I hate you too. Come in here. God help me to kill you. I don't want to be your slave. I don't want to pick your cotton. I don't want you to screw my woman. And I'll just tell you, a lot of y'all, if you get your DNA tested, if you come up like 80% or more African on a particular branch of your family, what it means is that your family was more than likely free. Or if they weren't free, the men didn't take shit because you're predominantly African, because the men didn't let the women get raped. So a lot of black folks had people, even if I was on the plantation, master, you ain't gonna fuck my woman. I know you're gonna beat me, I'm gonna kill you first. Okay. We need to rediscover that even our ancestors had an ability to resist. Right now, black folk ain't resisting. They're following Little Kim, and they're following Cardi B and Stallion, Lil Wayne, and all this other garbage, and LGBTQ and Black Fags Matter. We're not resisting. We're going along with our own destruction. We want to abort babies. We think that trans rights is the biggest movement in the country. We don't fight back. We
Mm-hmm.
support the Democratic Party blindly,
Yep.
right? So this is what I learned about my family, my father's side. I would wish I had had my father's DNA because I was about 85% African on my dad's side. I bet you my dad's even more, and my grandfather even more, meaning that some of these people almost remotely have any whiteness in means that they never. We ain't trying to blend with y'all. Even with the fucking whip and gun in your hand, I don't want to blend with you. Now, isn't it amazing? My folks didn't want to blend when slavery was in, and maybe if you're light skinned, you get a break. Why are all of us swirling? And with the
Man.
dumpster diving bitches with teeth that look like orthodontic care has never been invented. Sorry ass wasteful niggas with their ugly tramps who can't even comb the hair and the shit of the kids they have. You can tell when someone's mom's white when the hair looks like some spaghetti on LSD. Okay. Yeah, I hope I punched your ass. Yes, I'm offending people. So what? I'm just saying. And no, I got mixed people in my family. At least they knew how to do the hair. Give the white bitch some lessons. Send her to like braiding school or something. You know what? I had a girlfriend who was half white, and she told me she couldn't braid her hair, but she would braid her vagina hair. So she had she had pants around. That was funny.
She had micro minis down there. Eh?
That's well. Maybe she had some dreadlocks.
We talking to Dr. Randy Short here, live. Hotep is like, share, subscribe to the videos. Let me give a little context of what he's saying, because we here as Black Americans, we're always miseducated, and we're taught that the only way we got here to America was through some slave ships. And slave ships, it happened, but they totally don't talk anything about our Aboriginal history here, and about how we were here, and how the Black American of today is a mixture of the native, the imported, and other groups that were all mixed in and had to come together to fight off the European who came. People don't know about in the North how you had the whole term "bury the hatchet" comes from Hiawatha, and when those northern tribes got together and put their tribes together, their hatchets together, and buried them and said, "We're not gonna fight," and they came together in the 1100s and had a unified force here in the Americas that still was around longer than America today that we know of has been around, because we know that happened in 1150 and Ben Franklin stole their constitution in 1770. So we know that we've had long-standing establishments here in the United States, but it's not talked about. And now they have some movement where they're trying to get us to repatriate back to Africa. Akon talking about go back to Africa. Look, even if we went back to Africa, the nation states that were around when the people who got imported here, they're not there anymore. These countries that are in Africa now, they've all existed for 100 years around that time or less. So, you know what I mean? We have roots here in the United States, and we're having these discussions. And look at my past program I had with Miss Debbie Oklahoma, another person Dr. Randy Short turned me on to. Thank you again for that. And she talks about our Aboriginal history here and how it goes very deep. And along with our Aboriginal history, we've always fought back. Black people have never not fought back. Let me say that again. Black people have never not fought back. Now, what's happened over the last 60 years, we have a liberal media that's giving exclusive attention to coons. We have a media that said, okay, we're only gonna put a microphone in the face of a nigga that's saying something that we want to hear. We're only gonna put a microphone in the face of someone that's saying something that's advantageous to the system of white supremacy. So since that's what we've been dealing with, since we've only been dealing with a media that only puts coons and people who don't have black interests at heart, we've gotten this mistold story. Earlier, Dr. Short and I, we were talking about Howard and some of these HBCUs, and about how they get in the way of miseducating us. talk to the people about how, like, because this is what happened, Dr. Short. A lot of people, they'll say things, they'll hear these things, and then feel bad for not knowing. Don't feel bad for not knowing. We create these platforms to teach because it's by design you don't know. So we don't like to sit around and preach as if we know everything and you should know. No, this is each one teach one. We're bringing back the grapevine. Heard it through the grapevine. That's what this is. We bringing the grapevine back.
What? We need to get, that's another person for you to talk to. Barrett Strong, who wrote I Heard It Through the Grapevine.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, he's friends to Paul Reiser. So Paul's supposed to get Barrett for you.
Okay, great. That's going to be nice.
Get a book. I want to get a book. Hold on. I want to get a book so I can show you. Hold on 1 second.
Okay. Well, Dr. Short gets that book. Like I said, what we're talking about here is we're talking about our Aboriginal roots here in the Americas. We're talking about our resistance. We didn't get rights when somebody's marching saying we shall overcome. We didn't get rights by trying to create these huge coalitions. As a matter of fact, where the civil rights movement went wrong was in the creation of trying to create these big coalitions. Where they went wrong was when Dr. King and everybody said, okay, we need to all do this together. Where we went wrong was when the Black Panthers came up with the fucking rainbow. That rainbow ain't LGBTQ. They took it. But the original rainbow was something that the Black Panthers came up with, the Rainbow Coalition. And if you study the history of the rainbow starting in the late 60s, from the Black Panthers to Jesse Jackson, the rainbow was black people saying, hey, look, we got our shit, we fighting for our shit, and we want to help other oppressed groups that also suffer from the system of white supremacy. What our brothers in the Black Panthers didn't quite understand was these other groups, once they comeuppance off us, they then bounced and said, fuck you niggas. And that's the part that we didn't see coming. We figured in the 60s, if we bring in these newer immigrants that come from war-torn countries, we can have some kind of a coalition, some sort of unity. And that didn't work out for us. And so what's happening now is black people are going back to, knowing who we are. We're going back to being the best we can be for ourselves. And we're going back to looking out for ourselves. And we got to be unapologetic about that. Look.
Right.
If any group has an issue with you as a black person, they see your black ass skin, they see your black ass mama and daddy, and they got an issue with you saying, hey, why do you have to only talk for black people? It's about all of us. When they go back home and support their home country's flag, don't fuck with people like that. If they didn't understand and you explain to them and they get it, okay, maybe. But when if they have an issue, it's just a flat out issue with your black ass doing things, no, don't fuck with them kind of people.
You don't owe anybody an explanation. That's like someone asking you to explain why you piss and shit and eat. You exist. We need to stop reconciling. Okay, I hate that. I don't do that. I just went off on an Iranian associate of mine because he asked me about Black Lives Matter, and I told him what it was, and he asked me a question, and I went off on him. Because I said, you know what? You're in Iran, and I get nothing but CIA and Mossad information about Iran. It's the media, it's everywhere. Somehow you expect me to filter out all of the lies that I get about Palestinians and everybody else, and Yemenis and Iranians, and give you an article where I give you some clarity in spite of being baptized in the sea of lies from the CIA and others. However, when I ask you or tell you something about my people, you prefer to use the narrative of the same CIA that tells me I should want your ass to be nuked and that your country to be a radiating ruin. And you don't want me to take them at their word. But you want to take their word that hate me and reference to me. Yet when you ask me, you refer back to the very people that say you shouldn't exist. Do you have a fucking problem? What is your fucking problem? If you are supposedly a mature journalist, you ask me about Black Lives Matter, So I sent his ass a bunch of links. You know, the motherfucker asked me another question. I said, did you read the stuff I sent you? Obviously you haven't. I says, you can talk to me when you have an educated question, not a dumbass question where you want me to explain the last 8 years of Black history to you in 2 or 3 minutes. Anybody that takes your ass seriously will go to a fucking library, get a book. They read books on Kama Sutra to bust a nut. And why can't anyone that doesn't take you seriously, that includes Black folks, they're not serious enough to get some book time, some study time, don't fuck with them. Don't talk to them. Don't have any patience for them. I shun people who don't like information because you know what? It's completely disrespectful when someone comes up to me and says, explain your people's history in 2 minutes. They don't do that to white people. They don't do it to Chinese or anybody else. And they're testing to see how weak you are so they can fuck with you, right? So I don't tolerate it. If you haven't studied my people, like I told them, if you haven't taken time to take me seriously, we have no business talking to each other. I have read about your country. I've been to your country. I've researched your country. I go to people from your country to hear what they have to say, not other people that hate you. You owe me the same. And if you don't, we have no business dealing with each other. I haven't heard from his ass since. Great. They're not your friend. They're an enemy. They're a spy. They're trying to gather intelligence on weak niggas out there. What do the weak niggas think? Why do they have Cinco de Mayo?
Yeah.
Okay. Why do they have the three kings? Tres Reyes, right? They've got all this stuff. No one asked them. Anybody that dares ask you a question, it's not really asking a question. They're denouncing your culture, who you are, but they can say it to your face.
Yeah.
That's like me asking your wife, why is she married to you?
Yeah.
It's an insult.
Yeah.
Never, you owe no one but God an answer.
Yeah.
No one above you but God. None.
Yeah.
And the minute that Black people get there, I had a wife, an associate, and they asked me a question. I answered it, and then they said they're not racist, but they tried to rebut me. I says, well, if you don't know a fucking thing about Black history, I answered your question. Where did you get the rebuttal from? I says, it comes from the white supremacy in your mind that you're going to argue against something that you don't know anything. Get the fuck off my phone. Take your ass to a library. Call me in 6 months. If I'll talk to you then. I don't want to talk to you. Go. Disappear. Because I understand you. I'll research you. Irish, Italian, Russian, German, whatever it is, Arabs, I would try to understand the person and have an educated knowledge of who it is I'm talking to. So when I won't ask them a stupid question, right? Why do people eat with their right hand? I learned they wash their ass with their left. That's why. But, you know, well, right? No. You asked me about Howard. Here's a book that people should get. Actually, this is a $500 book. And this came from, University of Kiel, but I'll show you. It's called The New Negro on Campus, all right? You can get a paperback maybe for $45, but it goes back exactly 100 years. Just about 100 years when Black students started standing up. Now, what I want you to understand, the HBCUs were not established to liberate Black people. The HBCUs were established to provide superior education to the mulatto descendants of white people. Okay, and then the darker ones got in later, maybe as athletes or something like that. These things were not about everybody. They never have been. Okay, and Black folks keep pretending that everything is open. Shoot, if your vagina were open to everybody, you'd have a disease. Things are closed. In fact, or you'd gas us out if it was open. Have you ever been around someone you can smell the cooch and you want to give them like some cinnamon or something to put up there, please? There was a girl named Leah Stansel whose vagina was so funky, it would gas us out in our French class. I hope Leah. And, and in the wintertime, we would be cold with the window up because that cooch was killing us. This has been 40 years. I still remember being gassed out by the cooch. I mean, it's like being in a condemned seafood store. But anyway, the New Negro on Campus talks about the Black student movement of the 1920s, which is the origin of the student movements that you see in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. And what happened was that the HBCUs were teaching people how to be Europeans, how to be white,
Mm-hmm.
controlled by white people, and to be white-like and talk white-like and everything white. You had to go to chapel. You had to sing like white people and act like white people, and that was being educated. And people rebelled against that exactly within the last 9,600 years. But you have to understand something. Just because the students rebel doesn't mean that the system of cooning and being bowed down to white supremacy is gone. You need to remember at Southern University, the black college president had the white police massacre students. They had students massacred at Jackson State. You had black college presidents that gave the names of the activist students to the draft board so they could be sent out to Vietnam and die. Howard University had student takeovers from 1967 to from 1967 to about 1975.
Okay.
Since I know something about Howard, now I can talk about those fake ass niggas. Howard University had a student rebellion in 1968 and 1969. What was the rebellions about? In particular, in 69 was at Howard University, things like jazz, blues, and gospel could not be performed on campus.
What?
You are what I am. I'm a Pentecostal. Pentecostals could be denied admission to Howard because we are voodoo, stupid ass, ghetto, no good niggas who shouldn't even be admitted to a university because of how we worship in church, that we're scum. I just want you to know that. This is what Boule Coombs did. So at Howard University, the great Donny Hathaway, who dropped out of Howard University, Roberta Flack, who rarely goes back to Howard University, if they caught you performing gospel music, you'd be thrown out of school. If they caught you going to a Pentecostal church like the one I came up with, a little storefront, you'd be thrown out of school. They didn't want any of that vulgar, animalistic nigger stuff on their campus. If you were too dark, you may not be admitted to the school.
Yeah. The whole brown paper bag test thing?
It's real. If you were too dark, you might not be admitted, or you may not be welcome. Look, what happened to me at Howard in the 1980s? One of my teachers was Dr. I think Frank Snowden. He's the author of Blacks in Antiquity.
Okay, that book.
Now let's talk about that bisexual ass nigga. He's dead anyway. All right. Yes, I said that about you. Fuck you, Frank. You fucked over me. So I'm just gonna say this shit now. I was a classics minor at Howard, and Snowden is he would always boast about how he was a white Negro. Okay, this is me in school, right?
Yeah,
I needed a person. When I was taking his class, Blacks in Antiquity, on the first test, he told the students to all look at me and say, "You wouldn't believe how smart he is by the way he looks."
Whoa!
I'm dark, got a big nose and big lips. I should be more stupid than what I look. Literally, this is announced in a room full of 200 people. Wow. That my color means I'm stupid. And he was amazed. He says he has a photographic memory. I would have never thought someone that looked like him was so smart. So this is at Howard, the mecca of Black education. And he said he has a photographic memory. He can describe pages in the book, figures, this, that, and the other. Well, he got an A this time. I don't think that will happen again. He announces this in class.
Whoa!
I'll never get another A in his class. So I go to see the secretary in that office, his secretary. When I get there, I say, "Hello." She says, "Hi, Mr. Short." And I'm looking at her, huh? She says, "Hi, Mr. Short." She says, "Hello. You know me?" She says, "Yes, I've been expecting you." Expecting me? She says, "Yes. Dr. Snowden said that you would be coming to see about your grade." I says, "My grade?" "Yes, your final grade. You do want to know what grade you're going to get in this class, don't you?" And I says,
Whoa.
yeah, we haven't even had midterms. She said, Mr. Short, you are here to find out about your final grade, aren't you? And I says, my final grade? She says, well, yes. Don't you want to know what your final grade is? And I says, uh, uh, well, how can you know? She says, Dr. Snowden is so impressed by someone being smart that's your color with your features. You're exceedingly brilliant for your color, Mr. Short. Are you here?
Wow.
You should be very proud that in spite of how you look, there's hope for you. Let me tell you what your grade is. Your grade for the semester will be a B, Mr. Short. And I want you to know that Dr. Snowden completely respects you. He doesn't have people of your color every day do well in his class. Good day, Mr. Short. I'm smart. I mean, and she says, Mr. Short, your grade is a B. Dr. Snowden has assured me of your grade.
Wow.
Enjoy the semester. And from every grade class I took, every test, I was always 1 point short of an A. And my grade for Dr. Snowden was a B. And he, at the end of every test, would say, Mr. Short almost made it. He is so brilliant. He's so brilliant of his type. So I was too dark to get an A from Professor Snowden.
Wow. And that's, see, well, for people listening, the reason why this is brought up because I always want to know Dr. Short's perspective because I know he went to Harvard. I'm not Harvard. Howard. You went to Howard, and I've only read, but I remember listening to an old Dr. John Henry Clark lecture, and Dr. John Henry Clark talking about how Howard University, Fisk University, was created for the exact same reason Dr. Short said earlier, was because you had slave owners, the ones that actually acknowledged their mulatto children. They didn't want them going down to Tuskegee with the darker skinned niggas in certain places. So the majority of the higher profile black colleges that we see right now were created for the very reason of having a buffer class. And one concern that I had was because when you listen to the history of Howard, how they had Carter G. Woodson, the man who created Black History Week, as a professor and got rid of him. How they wouldn't give professorships and would fuck with people like Dr. John Henry Clark, Dr. Ben. How you had Dr. Frances Cress Welsing living down there who wrote the book on racism, and they never gave her that professorship. That's an issue.
They got rid of Du Bois. They got rid of Tony Brown. They got rid of Toni Morrison. They dogged E. Franklin Frazier. They dogged Ernest Just. You name them. They screw them, run them out. Leo Hansberry, they dogged him. Anybody.
William Leo Hansberry literally is the father of Black history. There was all of when we talk about Black history, we talk about William Leo Hansberry is somebody who created so much for us, and they fucked him over like that?
Yes, sir. They waited until he died to allow there to be African studies at Howard. Only when he died. Okay. I'm just telling you look, let me do some more Howard stories. I used to be in the choir. And if the choir director get angry, stop singing like niggers. I don't want to hear any more black voices. I want to hear singers. And they would kick people out of the choir. They're too black. You're too black. You're too black. Get out of my choir. I don't want to hear any niggas singing. Literally. This is in the 80s. I'm not talking about the 50s. I'm talking about recently. Relatively recent.
80s.
Yes, I'm talking about the 80s. I'm also saying to you, I finished Howard in 2006. I went again. And there are all kinds of things. For example, if I wanted someone to help me get my dissertation through, my dissertation advisor was white, then my thing got through. If I had a black person, it may not be good enough. With other black people. Just trying to tell you this.
Gatekeeping like a motherfucker.
You weren't good enough. For example, I'll tell you, my mother worked for Howard. My mother's lighter than I am. You could, in the administration building, people that were perhaps, if they were any darker than me, they wouldn't work on the higher floors unless they were really, really top level. So the support staff in certain offices, the people almost looked like they were white that were black. Just saying to you. And
So it's no
and
coincidence you have all these white people popping up posing as black at these HBCUs.
well, there was a woman pretending to be black when I was at Howard. Her name was Rosangela from Brazil, and they let her in the PhD program. She wasn't qualified. She stole my research and tried to use that to get a doctorate. They kicked her ass out. But because she had a drop of black blood, even though she'd identify as white in Brazil, she got shit over.
Over all of us, and that's the part right there that, because you were at Howard and you knew, you now you know her, but you were around the same time as Kamala Harris, around that around.
the exact same time as Kamala Harris.
And so people that I want to set this up before you go in. People say, okay, Kamala Harris went to an HBCU. She has,
Sure.
so Kamala Harris, because she went to an HBCU, she has black culture. She knows about the black struggle because she went to Howard University. Talk to these people since you were there at that time that Kamala Harris was there. What we talk a lot about Howard anyway. What do you have to say about these black people who think just because a person like her who spent high school in Canada, because she went to Howard, she has black culture? What do you got to say to that?
Well, Howard University's medical school, dental school, law school, pharmacy school, and some of the other schools, up until relatively recent, had a considerable number of white students in it. Sometimes whites could be the majority in some of the professional schools, or there'd be a large number of them. Aside from that, Howard University is the most international school in the country. I repeat, Howard University is more international than Harvard or Yale or Princeton or American University or Georgetown University, the University of Virginia, or University of Michigan at Ann Arbor, or the University of California at Los Angeles. You name the elite school, Brown, Dartmouth. Howard is the most international school in the country. Howard University, in effect, is the national university for the United States to reach out to the non-white world.
Mm-hmm.
There are lots of international students that go to Howard, and having been in African studies for 10 years, I can say to you that 99% of the international students that I met at Howard didn't give two fucks about Black Americans.
Man.
Didn't bother. They didn't learn. They didn't have to. They tended to stick to themselves. I will give you a quick story. When I was on the board of trustees at Howard, went to the International Students International Campus Pals, whatever, and the students attacked me. The Caribbeans attacked me for wearing the shirt to try to reach out to them. Yeah, they assaulted me in front of people. No one did anything about it. That's how much they hated Black Americans. This is in 1999.
This the night. That's the year I graduated high school. Like for real. Like now.
I'm saying to you right now, Howard University has, and sorry, you're talking about my lips. My lips are peeling because they're dry.
Okay.
So people just have to deal with it. It's not spit,
Okay.
it's skin. The weather's changing here. When the weather changes, my lips crack up. Okay, can't help you. All right, and folk have a problem with that. Stop watching. Just listen.
Hear that in the chat room. Go ahead.
Let me just say this: that Howard University has a Trinidadian president now who hates Black people's guts.
Hold on. Trinidadian?
Yeah, Trinidadian president who hates Black people's guts, and he's super pro LGBTQ. Let me just say this to you. Back in January 2018, the Black American students were protesting how much he hated their guts. It's rumored that he fired a lot of the African American faculty and staff and replaced them with whites and foreigners, and purged the Black Americans out of Howard. And the students were chanting, "Frederick hates Black Americans' guts" in Cranton Auditorium. Frederick got angry, called in the Howard University police to beat them. in the middle of Founders Day.
Wait, when was this?
And January, I'm answering if you're listening, January 2018. That wasn't 10 years ago, 2 years ago. And the dean of the chapel, Dr. Bernard Richardson, intervened and prevented, because they hold chapel in Crampton. And so that's like his church. And he refused to let the police beat the students. So you have a foreign, non-ADOS, non-FBA, coon-ass foreigner who calls out the police to beat the shit out of Black American students whose tuitions pay his fucking salary. This same president has sold off the Divinity School, sold off the television station. He's sold Howard to everybody. He's the greatest enemy Howard has had since white folks wanted to burn Howard University in the 1919 riot. Quote me. They sold off Beltsville, our research property.
I heard about that Howard TV channel. I heard it was pretty dope too. He sold that off?
Yeah, it was underutilized. They had 10 channels, but the coons there were more interested in stealing than developing. That's how it is. This is what the Boule does. They get stuff and they squander it. They mismanage it, steal the equipment, steal from the students, lie. And of course, that's all we got. So you can't complain, Short. Stop talking about us. Where else will people go if we don't steal all the equipment from a TV station? I mean, you almost hear niggas say this kind of stuff to you. I'm just saying to you. So this Caribbean dude, they fired and run off a lot of the good Black faculty. He hates Black Americans' guts. And this is what's going on now.
Damn.
And before you had a coon named Swigert, and Swigert was bisexual, and the reason he got kicked out was that he basically was trying to fuck his chauffeur, and the chauffeur wouldn't have sex with him, and he harassed this dude so bad until the guy was going to commit suicide, and ultimately the board had to get rid of Swigert. You had these degenerate, he was an Omega Psi Phi queer Swigert. This is the kind of stuff you have. Swigert and these people are all Zionists. They're not for Black folks. Howard University has a Black Studies department that only offers undergraduate degrees. It's been around 40 years. Why can't they have a PhD in Black people? Because they don't want people to develop that. Once you begin to understand, Howard University and all the other HBCUs are places to create a managerial class that keep the rest of Black people down. And so, and I don't hate Howard. I grew up, Howard's no more than 15 blocks from where I'm sitting, okay? But there are good people at Howard, like faculty and staff and people who really love, when you go to these HBCUs, there are people who love Black young people, love Black people. They're there, they're underpaid, they don't get treated right, they get fucked over, but they're there for our people. But there's a preference for foreigners and internationals and whites, and they get stuff over Black people any day. When I was on the board of trustees, there was a white dude who didn't even have a PhD that they were going to make provost. And of course, I exposed it to the Washington Post, and they published an article and they fired his ass, bitch ass. Yeah, right. They hate me. I hate coons too. I hate Boule coons. God make me rich. I spend part of my time just fighting traitor Black people. It makes me feel good. Make my dick hard to see one of these little coons have a bad day. I'm just telling you about Howard. I'm just telling you. There's more. Howard University had the CIA and the political science department. No, in psychology. There's a book, Zed Press, The CIA in Africa. And it's a little article. I remember when it happened. They were there at Howard trying to get the students in the psychology department to be trained to learn how to profile African leaders that the U.S. government, through the CIA, would assassinate.
What?
When faculty people, yeah, sure. This happened like 79, 78, one of those 2 years. Forgive me. I mean, I've been around Howard my whole life. The teacher that exposed the CIA for trying to have this got fired and run out of the school. So if you don't want Black people to get killed, you're bad. See how the Boule coons are? And by the way, the president of Howard back then was Dr. Cheek. And Cheek was a Boule bisexual. Yes, he's gay too. Almost all of them are gay. If you like pussy, you might like black people, at least people with pussies. Black. So they need someone gay that's like in between, right? Now, Cheek was down at Shaw University, and he was spying on Floyd McKissick in Soul City, working with the FBI to make certain that this all black town failed.
Yeah.
And they brought him to Howard as a promotion. See what I'm saying? A lot of these black people you see elevated, these are enemies of us, if you really get to know it. And by the way,
Major enemies.
real story about Cheek. I remember Cheek had to keep going to the Howard University emergency room, Howard University Hospital emergency room, because he kept needing eye surgery. What was happening was his wife was punching him in the face for messing with the males, messing with the chauffeurs he had. So in order to keep him and his wife from fighting over him like a dick more than he like pussy, they gave him female chauffeurs to keep him faithful to his wife, because they know you put a woman in the car, he ain't gonna bother nobody. He didn't speak to her. Yeah, real talk. This is how fake boule niggas, they're so busy chasing dick, they're not trying to help us. Look, even James Baldwin could fuck a white man and stand up for us, but these boule coons, damn. Damn.
And
I talk about them. I don't respect them. We should hate these people. The day that black folk turn on these people, start exposing them. Let me tell you something about these boule coons. They're so degenerate. They're so filthy. They're so no good. And that's why, stuff like they were going to get rid of black studies. I was in one of the protests to keep black studies at Howard. I went in on Cheeks and embarrassed his ass on WHMM, which became the TV station, and made his ass look like a clown. And they stopped having me on after I went in on that nigga on his own channel.
mm-hmm.
I've been doing this a month. This was back in like 1985. What is that? 35 years ago?
35, yeah.
I'm the same person now as then. So the next time someone says, "Oh, he supports Trump, he's a sellout," before some of these niggas were born, I was speaking up against coons. It's strategy. Don't question what I'm doing. Look at who I'm trying to help. If I'm trying to help the greater number of black people, it shouldn't matter what the hell I call myself. Okay? Now, I could say more about God. I could go on and on. Oh, let me just do this. Back in the 60s, one of the reasons that the Howard students protested was because they couldn't do gospel music in chapel. So they shut the school down. To punish them, they had the police and all come and beat up the students all over the school, throw people out of windows and shit, put people out of school. I mean, destroyed people, because they wanted Howard to be like more, to not be a black school.
Yes.
And they don't like that. Don't do that. Don't do black stuff. Howard is for everyone. It's this kumbaya bullshit that this boule is on. And that's why they favor internationals and whites over the black students in Howard. It's like that for a long time. So they beat up the students. And the students that used to be active at Howard, a lot of them would meet at my house when my parents were working for the university. And the students that were activists, what they do, it happened to me. Someone destroyed my PhD program folder. They wanted to get me out of school, so what they did was destroy all my records.
Uh-huh.
And then all of a sudden, I found out that I had no business at Howard. After being there like 4 years, I found out I wasn't a doctoral candidate. I learned like 4 years later. It says, wait a minute. How did that happen? I went up. Luckily, I took the time, and it turned out someone had stolen all my records.
Oh, wow.
If a secretary hadn't been willing to attest that I had filled in my paperwork to be a doctoral candidate, I'd have no evidence that I had, even though I had classes and everything, that wouldn't have been enough for me to be in school.
Oh, wow.
So once I got a different jacket in, and I got stuff filled in, because the woman vouched for me, God bless her, I called the student enrollment office. They were mad at me because I exposed a cousin of mine. I had a distant cousin who was a lesbian grabbing other women's titties up in the A building. And yeah, I said it. Fuck, I'll say it again. The bitch grabbed these women's titties. She had no right. So you should let someone grab yours instead of you grabbing some woman's titties. Doing that as somebody's boss. Yeah, they did. The bitch was grabbing titties. And Why is a woman grabbing another woman's titties? Then one woman, man, I'm gonna get breast cancer. You touch my titties, right? So she grabbed this woman's titties, and they had a big lawsuit. Um, and I brought this shit up in a meeting, so folk were mad at me.
Uh
Yeah, I said it. Fuck that bitch. I said it again.
huh.
Carmen James's titties got grabbed by this woman. Damn, I can't remember. Her name will come to me. But this woman was head of enrollment management, grabbed Carmen James' titties, and this woman went and sued, got like $1 million. Damn, wouldn't you like someone to grab your dick and get $1 million? Just, just hope it's a woman, right?
Yeah, so it was a woman. Yeah, goddamn right about that.
Now, let me tell you what happened. So when I called this bitch, yes, and I said bitch, ladies, she was a bitch. I called her to find out why they kept saying I had like a 3.8 average, why I didn't have satisfactory academic standing. 3.8 is fairly good. I think it's almost perfect. And the lady says, you're a master's student. You can't remain here. And I says, Miss, I just came from the Grad School of Arts and Sciences. And they just told me I'm a doctoral student. You seem to be the only person that's set on me being a master's student. She says, because you're a master's student, Mr. Short. And so I said to her, ma'am, let me say this to you. You've got a couple of things. You have a house, a car, and a job. And I'm going to take all three of them if you don't put the fucking form in right. How about that? Certainly, Mr. Short. Just have a nice day, bitch. And hung up.
Damn.
But she was a lesbian, and she was mad that I exposed another lesbian. I didn't give fuck these traitor ass gay people. Pussy eating hole. I don't give a damn. They are enemies against us.
Yeah.
As I said, like James Baldwin, as I said, he can fuck white men and speak up for black people. Okay, I can work with it somehow. But these traitor, coon, Black Lives Matter type people that are termites in our foundation, fuck them.
Fuck them.
Quote me. So that's what happened to me. They almost ran me out of school. Okay, and they did this. I had my godbrother, who I told you about in Los Angeles, a preacher.
Yes.
The students that were activists that were speaking up against Vietnam and other stuff, they'd come back to school, and all their records were gone. There was no record that they ever attended Howard University. I said, if you don't get out, we're going to call the police. There was a sister named Yolanda that was helping organize black people to get rights and the projects. She got shot in the head 2 times. The university never asked what happened to her. People would get destroyed. We had a cooperative called Shakula Food Co-op, where the people tried to get food for students so they'd eat properly. They had the FBI and other people raid looking for drugs. The coordinator lived in my house. I can assure you that there were no drugs in our house. This man was a drug dealer. This is what these Boulay people at Howard and these other schools do. Anyone black that's outspoken, they will destroy them. The mission of these schools is to destroy real black leadership and put in people like Kamala. Now let's talk about Kamala real fast.
Kamala.
At Howard. When I went to Howard as an undergrad, there was a gentleman by the name of Chris Christian who was head of the Caribbean Student Association.
Okay.
He and the other Caribbeans hated the shit out of Black Americans as a collective. This is just a fact.
Yeah.
I remember taking a Caribbean history course about the same time Kamala's there. The Caribbean students protested me being enrolled in the class. I'm in Douglas Hall on Howard's campus trying to learn about blacks from the Caribbean, and these people are saying to the teacher, kick him out. We don't want this Yankee nigga in class with us. Why did you let him in here? Which means the class was just for Caribbeans.
Yeah.
They never spoke to me in class. They would not make eye contact with me. They just hated me. I had no business being in the classroom with Dr. Arthur Burt because I was a Black American. Black Americans are stupid. Black Americans are dirty. They're lazy. They don't know anything. That's now the same term when I would go with a girlfriend of mine who's from the Virgin Islands to the Caribbean Student Association meeting. They would all start their meetings off by saying, I know y'all had a rough time. All these Yankee niggas, my God, I can't wait to get home so we can eat some good food and get away from this trash up here. And everybody would, and Kamala, if she wasn't she was a CSA member by virtue that she's from Jamaica, but her group of Jamaicans in particular, the mixed ones that were Indian or whatever, they were scarce. You wouldn't see them on campus, and they tended to hate even their own Caribbeans that are darker. They stayed to themselves. Kamala was put on the AKA line through an exception. Somebody did something for her to get there. Okay. And she was on the line when the girls were role playing being prostitutes and other stuff and snorting cocaine. They had some crazy lines in the late 80s. I'm just saying. Fact, bitches. So how much cocaine, or if she did snort cocaine, or suck Q-Dog dick, or stand outside on 13th Street and act like she's a whore and try to solicit sex to prove that she had, the moxie to be an AKA. She did that shit. Those lines were whacked. So to me, Kamala was ready for Willie Brown after she crossed over as a gay at Howard. Yeah. So to hell with them Ivy holes. They're enemies of our people. They don't stand up. They're traitors. In fact, let me say something to you. Going back to Howard. Howard University was a dynamic, wonderful place in spite of everything until about 1980. When Ronald Reagan came in, so did the Greeks. The Greeks came back with a resurgence. And for the last 40 years, the Boule has been on a rampage to destroy Black people. The last time you really had any kind of struggle or activism among Black students in the country was when the Greeks were marginalized. We've been fucked ever since the Greeks have been seen as okay, as in.
You're right about that, because there was a research, and people oftentimes think that these Black Greek letter organizations were always prominent. They had a resurgence in the 80s. They weren't really around like that back when we was getting shit done in the 60s.
Well, they got driven out by the movement. The Black movement basically sidelined, beats those niggas, made them side pieces. So you have to understand the Greeks and the Boule hate the Black movement. It's their enemy. They're our enemies.
You can tell by the way Roland Martin talks about Tariq and those guys. You can tell.
Rollover Martin, shit. My friends ran him out of Chicago. He needs to be careful. See, those niggas may out him.
Oh, yeah.
he needs fuck Roland Martin. Okay, Roland Martin and them are enemies of our people. If he can steal questions to help Hillary Clinton, why couldn't they break stories and shit that are more significant for Black folks? Why does he break some damn news on his station? He breaks when his big bloated ass breaks some news. Do something new. I don't care. And you know what? Roland and them are lucky. They're so lucky that the Black community has been like a cadaver or a corpse. It's near dead. If the Black community resurrects, they'll turn on these people like an alligator who's had its tail sat on. Okay, it's coming. There will be a civil war in our community. I would hate to be in the Boule. This is why you hear me cursing coons and shit. So if there was ever a movement among Black folks that said, well, I remember you're the one that stood up to coons when it wasn't popular.
Mm-hmm.
You're the one that people out. I saw you cussing them out when I was young. Okay, let him go. I seen you. You were with Brother Tariq. You was cursing and standing up and shit. You was broke. We don't want you. If you don't think a time like that will come in our community, where folks are going to have to face what I would call citizens committees, Black citizens committees. And if you come up as a coon, there may be a struggle session like what the communists have. You ever seen the picture of people pointing fingers and cursing at the person? You sell out. You a traitor. You fucked us. And everybody's yelling and screaming at that person. And we need that. We need to have someone just cuss and scream at Bob Johnson's daughter. Your father fucked us up. Had that bitch called, why you make me? Everyone hates me because you're a traitor. That's what I tell you I love about the white people I grew up with. If you were a nigger lover, The white neighbors all punished you.
Yep.
You got your kids were punished for what you did. You were too nice to black people. Kids be trying to make a Ku Klux Klan robe out of their pillowcase to try to fit in. To say I'm
Mm-hmm.
not like my parents. My parents are stupid. We need something to coerce niggas to get on code because some aren't going to do it just because
Mm-hmm.
it's right. Same way people aren't going to eat right. Same way people aren't going to wipe their ass or use deodorant and stuff that they're supposed to do. They're not going to get on
Yeah.
code, forced to do it. We have to make black folk do what is right. We have to get rid of feminism and all this stuff, destroy it. That not even respect it. I don't want to respect it. I don't want to understand. Damn it. It's for white female supremacy. Damn it. I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, there are issues for women. Why don't black women create their own movement? I'd
Mm-hmm.
support. I would endorse any movement. And womanism is too close to feminism. Create some new shit. Some new black woman shit that talks about men and women together and not killing babies and shit and not aligned with LGBTQ. Don't have a whole bunch of ugly lesbo dykes that look like space invaders as your spokespersons. Fuck that
Yes.
shit. We're tired of that little ugly mule ass looking woman.
Yeah, you
Look
when
like
when the average woman that's leading your movement looks like Lori Dykefoot, that's a problem.
yeah, they look like a dragonfly with weave on. That makes me want to get a can of Raid. Not want to understand.
You got these women in their 40s walking around representing the LGBTQ movement, looking like John Witherspoon, rest in peace. That it
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't be like that. It shouldn't be like
He looks better than they do.
that.
I'm I'm just telling you, it's time to resist that. Black men need to stop being weak. We not need to start saying fuck feminism, fuck feminism, fuck feminist. You're a black woman, create a movement for equity for black women. I support that. But it can't be called feminism. It can't have anything to do with them white hoes that have done this stuff to us. If you're with that, fuck you. I don't like you. I don't want to like you. It's time for black men to be disobedient to feminism. And in fact, I got some books while I'm doing this. I want to share this book um, for all the dumbass black women. Y'all need to understand where feminism comes from. Do you see this?
Mm. Satanic feminism.
Mm-hmm. You see it in Black Lives Matter, all these little dumbass black women getting down with Satan and shit. That's why you can't have a family. That's why you killed a baby up inside of you, because you believe this dumb shit. This explains how the origin. Listen to this. Lucifer as the liberator of women in 19th century culture. So these white female Satanists have dumbass black women being Afrocentric feminists. I mean, fucking up our community, destroying things. Get the fuck out of here. We don't like that shit. Another book. I'm a, y'all need to start reading. Find out where this shit comes from. I got another book that's coming called The Devil and Karl Marx, and it talks about this feminist shit. Here's another good book. See, we need to have that angry nigga book club, brother.
Yeah, we got to start
Angry
that. We Dr. Short not gonna start that. I have the book club on Hotel Pitch. We're gonna change that name, and we gonna it's gonna be called the Angry Nigga Book Club because it's gonna be a list of books that we all need to read, men, women alike, to get this shit right. The amateur the Barack Obama, Edward Klein. Okay.
Yeah, he ain't shit. And the people that like him who voted for him ain't shit either. Even if it's people listening, fuck y'all for voting for this sellout nigga. All he did was dog us. Shit. You're gonna have to repent to God for voting for Obama when you get to heaven. God's gonna ask you, did you vote for Obama? Then he gonna put a slot and shit. We need to repent that. I rebuke that nigga. I'm so angry that we got tricked by them. I don't give a damn. I'm angry. To hell with Obama. To hell with all the people that voted for him. I never voted for his giant ass. Here's a
Uh-huh.
See, these are kind of books a little coon ass onk niggas got you reading all this shit on Egypt. Y'all need to see what shit's going on right now. Okay.
Yeah.
And if we can get back to Egypt, that shit's in the past anyway. This is a really good classic. We charge genocide, and it's still going on with the help of the Democrats that you love and that you're gonna vote for that little broke back Dracula looking Joe Biden. He, get that nigga some Prevagen and tell him to sit his ass down. I couldn't get damn COVID. Damn him and Kamala. She probably has COVID. She's probably immune, but spreading that shit. This is how the CIA and all the intelligence people manipulate movies and shit. Y'all think y'all watching cool
and
entertainment?
that's and right there, we were going to talk about that, but I'm running out of time. I'm gonna have to get out of here pretty soon. We're going. I told people we're going to talk about this in the next episode about cinema and the whole Avatar thing. We're gonna have to get all. That's gonna have to be something that's dedicated a show by itself.
Sure.
Because it gets so deep. So I know I announced something to some of you. We're gonna talk about that. We have so much deep shit we talked about today. Go back and listen to this twice, because when it comes to the war and rhetoric and propaganda, black people need to start being the smartest people in the room, because we back down because when other people talk, we tend to believe them, and we believe them because we don't know. When you pick up these kind of books, the more you know, the more confident we can be in spaces around people when we having these type conversations.
Another classic. Listen to what Martin Luther King really said, not this shit they talk about him on the, him touching himself under the podium at the March on Washington. Can't wait to get some OPP after he's done. What did it say? Martin Luther King would say, 100 years ago, the Negro said, right. Anyway, I like it. Let freedom ring, right? Martin Luther King said, Brother Dumont, I would like to first of all encourage the Negroes that listen to your show to try to understand the condition of the Negro in America today. It's very important that we come together and understand the purposes of struggle against the system. This is what we're up against, my brother. So when I wrote this book here, trying to get the Negro to understand the systemic oppression of Negro people in the United States of America, I'd like for all you sisters that are fine out there that are looking for an extramarital affair to take my number from Brother Duan, and when Coretta or Corey goes out of town, we can let freedom ring up in a Days Inn or a Hotel 8 or a place of your choice. Anyway, I love Dr. King. Can you imagine?
So for those listening, I want to thank y'all for listening. I want to thank you again, Dr. Randy Short. I got tenants of mine hitting me up. I got something going on in one of my buildings. I got to get to this. So I want to thank you again for joining us. And then the next time we talk, we're going to, maybe hopefully later on this week, if you have some time, I want to talk about the Avatar and all that stuff.
Sure. This is what you need to say to your tenant. What part of homelessness don't you get? That's what I'm saying. What part of being homeless don't you get? They'll get quiet. Then you have to sometimes be harsh with our people. But I know you don't want to set anybody's ass out. So damn, I'd like that plasma television set you have anyway. I could use that for my show. Keep fucking with me. I'm gonna call Child and Family Services. Say that you having rat barbecue in there. I bet your ass. Sometimes you have to do trip stuff to people that are whack, like some of your you understand what I'm saying. You have to trip on them. If you need some help, just call me. And remember I told you about the nigga who was bumming, begging for all this money and shit in church?
Yeah.
I told you about that, and I told the pastor to tell the congregation that this dude had won $200 million through Powerball, and that he had asked for $10,000, and he thought he would get it. And he told everybody in the church that this nigga won $200 million. You know that dude has quit the church and has moved out of the city.
As he should.
He was bumming for money from everybody. And I told him, no, play that game too. Have everyone ask his ass for money. See how he likes it. Tell him that you're trying to get $10,000. They need to get this before you run out. I mean, bitches were taking them cakes and shit that he had never seen before. He moved. He called me laughing, saying, oh my God. That's just, the people in my family are tricky. It's a Nigerian in me. I have a significant amount of, that's probably why I'm a little crooked, Nigerian. Yeah, but that nigga moved out of town. He disappeared. He stopped bumming. People were
Hey.
calling him. He had to turn his phone off and shit because he's getting called all day. His phone was just vibrating like this, man.
Hey, that's what it is, man. I want to thank you again, Dr. Short, for joining us, and we will be, yeah.
Get that for COVID, y'all.
Okay.
Uh, Quercetin. There are all kinds of stuff. Tell people, man, that frontlinemds.com so they can get hydroxychloroquine. I have to keep putting that out. Elderberry, this elderberry gummies. Come on, y'all. Don't get sick. Frontline MDs. Can you put that out there so people know about that? I think I told you about it, right?
About what?
How to get hydroxychloroquine because
Oh no,
folks
you
are
didn't tell
dying.
me that. You didn't tell me that.
Okay, real fast. My advertisement. Well, I got your attention. Frontlinemds.com. FRONTLINESMDS.com. There's a link on that website. Go COVID-19 for $90. I think therein you can get hydroxychloroquine. That drug helps keep you from getting COVID-19. Don't wait and die. We just buried my mother's goddaughter on Friday. Had a heart attack from COVID-19.
Man, that's fucked up.
The frontline MDs, they do some telemedicine. They'll look at your ass. They'll give you a prescription. Go get yourself some. Just have the shit in the house. And the sooner you take it, the better. It builds up your T-cell immunity. I've been using it since April. And as you know, I've been to Kentucky 4 times. I'm going back within 2 weeks. And then I go to Kansas City. I've been flying all over the place, getting frequent flyer miles during this pandemic. And my health is great. You need to have that because this COVID is mutating. It may be more dangerous. They may release some new shit to kill niggas because they're jealous that they dying in greater numbers than us. Get it. And when you get a prescription, go to an independent pharmacy. Go to a black one. Spend some money with some Negroes. In fact, maybe you can get a crack pipe when you're there. But don't go to Walgreens or CVS or any of those places. The chains have a conspiracy. They want to force our people to take the vaccines. Remember that liar Biden said 1 in 1,000 black people had died from COVID-19. This is to create a panic that our community would be forcibly vaccinated. That is a way to kill us. Wake up, people. Hydroxychloroquine does work. Ask yourself in all your life, have you ever seen people attack a pharmaceutical as much as they have hydroxychloroquine? Why? And I'm telling you, there have been drugs that have fucked people up and you don't even hear about it. Why is it that this specific drug that's being used all over the earth to fight COVID successfully is so attacked other than it works? Why is it that the people in Africa aren't dying from COVID? Did they know that babies in Africa, hydroxychloroquine is safe enough to give the babies? People who live in areas where there's a lot of malaria that take hydroxychloroquine are not getting COVID-19 because of their T-cell counts. The reason that black people in America are dying in such great numbers and blacks in Brazil, they're in countries that do not have the same issues with malaria, so they do not take hydroxychloroquine as a typical type of drug, which means that they are more likely to die than black people anywhere else in the world with inferior health systems. So come on, y'all. I'm taking it. I want people to live. You have to ask yourself why Fred Price and all these other niggas have been silent as our people have died in the thousands from this. No one has pointed any solution, anything, not even masks, right? Why there's been such silence, and I'll tell you why, and I'll stop here. All the pharmaceutical corporations that want to give us vaccines to kill us have given money to the CDC, the Leadership Conference for Civil and Human Rights, the NAACP, the National Asshole Network, Urban Greed, the National Congress of Churches, every single solitary black organization, most black folks in political office are funded by the pharmaceutical corporations that wish to kill us. This is why there is silence, meaning that the people that you look to, that you trust, that you tithe to, that you think are cool, that are celebrities, have said, as long as I don't die, or as long as I'm not getting killed, what happens to the other niggas is their problem. It's very similar to Fred Price speaking out against racism only when it hurt his son, instead of being against racism overall because it exists. It's ungodly. I'm Dr. Randy Short. Definitely bless me with some resources because I need to buy some more books for our Angry Nigger Book Club.
Y'all see his Cash App right above his name, $, Dr. Randy Short. Thank you again. And for those listening, I want to say, like I always say, there are no perfect messengers, only perfect messages for those who are willing to pick up game. You got to be willing to get the message. My name is Dewan B. Thank you again, Dr. Short. We out.